Good evening. I'm Leslie Foster, continuing WUSA 9's election night coverage of this special digital show.
Yeah, I'm Lorenzo Hall. While CBS News handles our coverage on TV, we have you covered with local races and, of course, the battle for control of Congress.
Yeah, right now, Maryland and D.C. polls will close in just 30 minutes. We're already starting to get results out of Virginia, preliminary ones for sure. We've got a team of reporters ready to get you the stories you won't see anywhere else.
Yeah, we'll get live updates from them in just a minute. But first, we want to check in with our Adam Longo.
He's at the touch screen, his favorite place here on the news set, with a breakdown on what you can expect as results pour in from the key local races. We've seen you over there tweaking it and playing with it. And tell us how this breakdown county by county is going to go.
Sure. Yeah, we've got a lot of new toys that we're going to be able to play with for you tonight on election night. So I want to take you through all of the individual items that we have and how we're going to be able to show you these results breaking down. And more importantly, one of the things that is one of my favorite things to show off is how the results this year coming in compare to the results that we've seen in previous years, because that is going to give us information about trends, where voters are trending, more Republican, more Democratic, and where those trends are coming out of. So let me just start with sort of the big picture here, right? One of the big races that we're following here in the area is the Maryland governor's race. Obviously, polls still open in Maryland, no results coming in yet, but we'll be able to go county by county and show you, well, in Frederick County, here's how the candidates are doing, or in Washington County, here's how the candidates are doing. And because of the statewide nature of these races, there's no statewide races going on in Virginia, so we'll be able to give you the statewide picture for what's going on in Maryland. So we'll also be able to show you the Attorney General's race going on there in Maryland, and also the Comptroller's race, the three big statewide races in Maryland. We're also going to be able to show you, and I'm going to go into more detail on this coming up in a minute, but just to give you a preview here, redistricting, obviously playing a massive role in these congressional district seats, both in Virginia and Maryland, especially the ones that are up for grabs right now. A lot of these have gone to a very tighter status. So there's three in particular that we're following. We're going to be following the race in Maryland, Congressional District 6 with David Trone. We're also going to be following in Virginia, Congressional Districts 7 and 10. That is where the incumbents, Abigail Spanberger and Jennifer Wexton, are in Northern Virginia. So this just real quick, let me show you. This is like the old redistricting map. Pay attention here to District 7. You see how it goes kind of north-south up from like the Shenandoah Mountains down to maybe Richmond. Now this is the new map, the 7 here, which is this gray color. You see how this district is more east-west. So that's shift the entire dynamic of the voters that exist within that region. The orange here is District 10. That is the Jennifer Wexton seat. Hung Cow, her opponent there. This is expected to be one of those tight races tonight. So in addition to those tight races, not even able to showing you on this exciting, colorful map, we're going to be able to go county by county in these areas and show you. So look, we're getting some votes in here. So Hung Cow right now, with all the votes that have been counted, which are very little right now, is leading 3,800 votes to 2,500 votes. But I'm going to be able to come in here, and I'm going to be able to pick counties. I'm going to be able to say, well, Cow is leading in Fauquier County right now. As you can see, just less than 2% of the votes counted. But we're going to be able to go into each of these counties and show you what the results are in Manassas Park City and in also Loudoun County. That'll be another one of the big ones where a lot of these votes will be coming in tonight. We're going to be able to do the exact same thing for you in the District 7 race. This is the Abigail Spanberger, Yesli, Vega race. So a number of counties here, because this district has shifted a lot. So we're going to look in particular here in Stafford County. So this is one of the new counties that is new to this particular congressional district race. So no results coming in there so far. But as you can see right here, the total number of votes that have come in, Yesli, Vega has just over 10,000 and Spanberger just over 6,000 right now. But this is, again, with less than 2% of the precincts in mail-in reporting. We're also going to be able to show you that county-by-county breakdown with this District 6 race in Maryland between David Trone and Neil Parrott. That district stretching from all the way in western Maryland, of course, to Garrett County, and then coming back towards the east where we have Frederick and we have Montgomery County. Now, one of the interesting things that I'm going to be interested to see about this race, particularly when it comes to Frederick County, which is has a lot of independently minded and sort of independently minded voters, and then a lot of Republican and Democratic voters of sort of equal numbers, right? So with the almost inevitability of the Wes Moore gubernatorial campaign, is that possibly going to work to depress Democratic turnout And could that turn around and hurt David Trone in Frederick County? That's just one of many, many multiples of things that we'll be looking at tonight. Last thing I'll show you here before we'll bring it back to you guys is we're going to be able to show you a big picture of the nation, what's going on. Of course, we've been following for weeks, for months now, what are the key Senate races that can determine the balance of power in the United States, right? So we're talking about North Carolina, Colorado, Arizona, New Hampshire, Pennsylvania, Florida, these states that we're always looking at. So we're going to be able to track these here throughout the night. Pennsylvania being one of them, Wisconsin being one of them. You can see these two states that are lit up in red right now, states that are not really in doubt right now with who is likely to win re-election, but those are states represented as far as the votes that are actually coming in. We're already getting some results in North Carolina as well. Democrat Sherry Beasley here up by about 20 points over Ted Budd, but this is again with, we got close to 30% of the votes counted. This is a seat to replace Richard Burr, who is retiring from the Senate in North Carolina. So in addition to that, if you want to get hyper-specific, what about the race for the House? We're going to be able to show you each of the 535 House districts around the country and how that's shaking out. Obviously, that pales in comparison to the importance of what we want to talk to you about, which is what's going on with our local races. So listen, come back to me in just a couple minutes. I'm going to help break down more of this redistricting issue that's been happening, specifically in Virginia, how that is likely to affect both the District 7 and the District 10 congressional races. Guys?
Yeah, it's important as we see these results come in to know where those results are being reported, because that could give us some idea of how this is all going to turn out.
Yeah.
All right, Adam, thank you. And as you just heard Adam mention, a tight race in our area could decide control of the U.S. House of Representatives. This is crucial. Republican Yesli Vega is taking on incumbent Democrat Representative Abigail Spanberger for Virginia's 7th District. We've been following this race very closely, as a lot of people have for months now.
Yeah, tonight, Bruce LaShan and Matthew Torres give us a closer look at where things stand with both candidates.
Yeah, let's start with our Matthew Torres and political newcomer Yesli Vega in Woodbridge. And we're seeing the room there start to fill up just a bit, Matthew.
Yeah, without doubt, we hear the music. A lot more people have just made their way here to the watch party. Adam mentioned earlier how the redistricting of this particular area really can help shape how the election results will turn out. And because of that, we are getting more Hispanic voters within this region, especially in Prince William County. I want to invite now Astrid with the Latino National Republic Coalition of Virginia. We were just talking about this earlier. How is the makeup of the redistricting and having more Latino voters helping shape up what the election's outcome might be?
Well, the Latinos came out to vote. We say this is our time, and this is the time that we have to speak out and say, hey, is something wrong in the country? We escaped communist country. We escaped bad situation in our original countries that we came for the American dream. And now is the time to switch, and now is the time to get a new life for the Latinos here.
And we were speaking earlier because you said yourself, when people think of Republican voters, they may not necessarily think of the Hispanic community. What issues do you think are gravitating towards the Hispanic community in this area that they feel Vega can do better than Spanberger?
Well, she's one of us. She speaks Spanish. She communicates very well the problems that the community is facing, and we need somebody to speak out for us, because we need that somebody to fight for us. We need somebody that say, hey, something is wrong in the country and we need to fix it. What is happening right now in the United States, coming from Venezuela, I never saw myself living something like this. The crisis on the border, the price of the gas, the economy is going out of, you go to the supermarket and everything is so high. So we need to look for our future. We need to look for our children.
Astrid, thank you so much for your time. And those issues that she just talked about, those are what poll, especially most importantly, for Republican voters here in Virginia. Of course, we know Vega is running against Representative Abigail Spanberger. And to continue our coverage tonight, we have my colleague Bruce LaShan at Spanberger's watch party in Fredericksburg. Hey, Bruce.
Hey, Matthew, thanks so much. You can't see them right now, but there are already a ton of reporters and photographers here because this is such a closely watched race, actually watched across the nation, and it's really a bellwether race for how it's going to turn out between Democrats and Republicans tonight. A whole range of possibilities, and this could be an early sign of where we're going to end up. There are also a lot of Spanberger supporters starting to trickle in for what they're hoping and expecting is going to be a victory party.
was. But I told them I voted for you.
Spanberger, kind of a joyful campaigner. She was out early this morning working polling places, multiple polling places all over this sprawling district. She says she is confident of a victory. And one of the country's preeminent political analysts, Larry Sabato of Sabato's Crystal Ball, just placed Virginia 7th as leans Democratic. Here in Fredericksburg, which is heavily Democratic, poll watchers say turnout has been strong by mid-afternoon. About 75% of the turnout we saw in the race, the intense race for Virginia governor last year. We talked to voters just after Spanberger visited the Dorothy Hart Community Center here in Fredericksburg.
My grandma would disapprove, and I don't know if she'd see this, but...
So you're not saying that you're voting for Spanberger?
I mean, I did. I did just because she believes in some certain things that I believe in, but Vega was a very good contestant. I was definitely considering her. I just really don't like her stance on the whole pro-life, pro-choice.
I'm hoping for a strong Republican outpouring now because of the way things have been going.
Do you think we can heal the great divisions in our country? Is that important to you, and how do we do it?
Yeah, I hope so. I don't even understand how it got so absolutely divided.
But you blame the Democrats for the division?
I won't say that entirely. No.
You think that the Republicans are in some ways responsible for
In some
where
ways.
we've gotten?
Oh yeah, in some ways.
I don't mind saying that I voted for Abigail Spanberger.
Because you think she's more...
She does. She has a history of working across the aisle.
Now, Spanberger really has been a bit of a giant slayer. She defeated the Tea Party insurgent David Brad 4 years ago and ended a 36-year Republican lock on this district. And Brad was actually the guy who defeated Eric Cantor, who was a top Republican leader in the House. Spanberger, of course, campaigning as a moderate at a time when voters say that that's what they're looking for. Back to you guys.
It's a really insightful interview, I think,
Yeah.
to hear from voters who say, listen, the polarization that we're dealing with in this country is not just one side, that we all contributed to it in some way, and we're all going to have a hand in making this thing better, Bruce. Thanks for that.
Yeah,
reporting.
Yeah, go ahead, Bruce.
Sure.
You want to add something, Bruce?
Yeah, I wanted to say, I mean, I just thought it was interesting talking to that guy who was a Republican, said he was looking for a red wave, but he was willing to admit that maybe Republicans are somewhat responsible for the divisiveness, that it's a shared responsibility, according to him. I don't know, maybe somehow we can find common ground.
Well, we know that in this district currently, as it's been redrawn, back in 2020, 52% of them voted for Joe Biden. Then
That's
a
right.
year later, that same number voting for Glenn Youngkin. So, it can go either way tonight.
Yeah.
It sure can.
All right, Bruce. Thank you.
Yeah, and I mean, the district, okay.
Bruce,
one more-
go.
Go ahead. We have plenty of
We
time.
got nothing but time.
Okay. I mean, and the district, changing, obviously. I mean, Washington sprawl continues to move down here, so you have a lot of kind of ex-urban areas around here. And the district has gone from being kind of a north-south district. It was reshaped, a north-south district that went all the way down into the Richmond suburbs to a district that has a lot of Prince William County and kind of goes east-west. It's a different district than it was when Republicans had the lock on it. And sometimes it's really demographics that makes all the difference.
I think you're right about that. I mean, Spanberger and Vega are going to have some learning to do,
Yeah.
right? Because this was not normally in their district, because when the maps were redrawn, it now includes this other part of the area that you just described, Bruce. So they've got to appeal to a bigger, broader constituency in
Yeah.
Virginia, and we will see how that all comes together tonight. Or the next night, or the next night. We'll
Let's
just
hope
have
tonight.
to see, right?
All right.
Thanks, Bruce.
All right,
Yeah,
we'll check back in with you in just a bit. All right, 2 more high-profile races in Virginia tonight. First, the race for District 10. Democrat and incumbent Jennifer Wexton trying to keep Republican and retired Navy captain Hung Kao from taking her seat. Now, the 10th is seen as, safe for Democrats, but potentially in play if the GOP has a very strong night. It always comes down to outcome, and you can see right here with only 7% of the precincts reporting Hung Kao leading, 64% to Jennifer Wexton's 36%. But again, it's still early.
The night is young. In Virginia's 2nd Congressional District, Republican Jen Kiggins is taking on Democratic incumbent Elaine Luria thanks to redistricting. District 2 mainly covers parts of Norfolk and Virginia Beach, and political analysts expected this race to be tight, and it is. The last polls had both of them virtually tied. They are both Navy veterans. We'll be talking about this one throughout the night, too.
Yeah, so in addition to all 11 U.S. congressional seats, Virginia voters will decide on several county boards, school boards, mayors, town council seats, and a host of bond questions.
These are really important races, and why it makes sense for people to truly engage during this time.
Stuff
People
that impacts you every
they
day.
think about the big picture, right?
Yeah.
The big elections, but sometimes people aren't always drawn to what's happening in the primaries and what's happening in the midterms. These are the things that impact your life right now. So we're going to pause for a second and let those results cycle in, and we'll be back in just a moment.
Okay, so you've heard us mention a lot how redistricting is expected to play a big role in several key races, especially Virginia's 7th Congressional District.
Adam Longo is back at the board to take a closer look. So let's talk about it, Ads.
Okay. So let's break down some of the key races in Virginia, right? So we've got the 10th Congressional District, which is the Jennifer Wexton Hung Cow race, and then we have the 7th Congressional District, which is Abigail Spanberger and Yesli Vega. So let's break down how those districts voted in the last election in 2020, okay? So in Congressional District 10, that was a plus 20 Biden race in the Virginia 10th Congressional District. So the new district, let me get you over to this. Let me actually just point this out to you first, okay? So these maps are a little different, so just follow along with me here for a second, okay? So the 10th Congressional District is right here. That's the Wexton District, right? The Wexton Hung Cow race, right? So up here you've got Loudoun County, Rappahannock County. You've got that northern and sort of fringe to the west part of the Washington suburbs. Now that district has changed slightly. Now this is going to be a much more exciting, colorful map to look at here. So if I'm able to zoom in here, we're going to see this county by county, right? So we're going to see the 10th, which is in the orange here, right? So we've got Loudoun County here, we've got Fauquier, Rappahannock, and we've got a little bit of Prince William County, right? So what's happened between 2020 and now is, so in 2020, you had a plus 20, Biden won that district by 20 points. If that election had happened with these new maps, it would have been plus 18. So still a very democratically favored district, just not as much as before. Now, I can show you the same thing with the 7th district. You just heard Bruce LaShan talking a moment ago about how geographically diverse that district has changed. So looking at the 7th here, again, how it's going sort of from the northwest, Shenandoah Mountains, so north of Augusta County there, like Rockingham County area, north of Harrisonburg, down to the suburbs of Richmond. So just sort of look at that there, right? So you've got I-95 coming out of Washington here south of Richmond. So it just sort of touches that in the Richmond suburbs. Now you look at the new 7th district here, which is in gray. You can see how it encompasses a whole lot more of that I-95 corridor. Now we're talking about Spotsylvania County, Fredericksburg and Stafford, and a little bit of Prince William as well. And then when you go to the west, you've got Culpeper, Madison, and Orange, and a little bit of Louisa County over there as well. So what does that mean? Okay, so Joe Biden won the 7th Congressional District by 1 point in 2020. If we had this shaped district in 2020, Joe Biden would have won by 7 points. So what that means is this district has been redrawn and it is now more favorable to a Democratic candidate. Now, economic conditions, everything that's happening, Democrat in the White House, what you expect to happen during a midterm election, obviously we're hearing that the totality of this is not favorable to Democratic candidates right now, but this district, as it's drawn, has a lot more, apparently, Democratic voters now than it did back in 2020. Now, one place in Virginia where that has really changed is that's down here in District 1. That's the Elaine Luria district, okay, District 2 rather. So I'm actually able to show you that on this map right here. We're actually getting some of the results in from that race. So in District 2, Elaine Luria, who is the incumbent, a member of the January 6th commission, she is behind right now with 20% of the precincts and the votes counted, 42% of the vote to Jen Kiggins, a former Navy fighter pilot, 57.6%. Now, so this race is very interesting because in District 2, that was a plus 4 Biden. Biden won that district by 4 points in 2020. But again, with this new map, he would have only won it by 2 points. So this is a district now more favorable to Republican candidates. One more thing I'm going to show you in terms of redistricting. We're going to hop up to the 6th district in Maryland to highlight that, and that is in the race here between David Trone and Neil Parrott. So what I can tell you about this race, I'm going to open this up a little bit more just so you can get a better idea of the counties. Actually, you know what we're going to do so you can get a better look at the counties? So just ignore the race for governor for a second. I want you to look at the Maryland counties, right? So District 6 in Maryland includes Garrett County, Allegheny County, Washington County, now all of Frederick County. It used to include about half of Frederick County, and it includes a piece of Montgomery County, although not as much of Montgomery County as it did back in 2020. So looking at this, how is the turnout in Montgomery County, the more Democratic, the more liberal voters, how are they going to turn out versus the expected Republican turnout in the parts of Western Maryland? Now, as far as this particular race in 2020, David Trone over Neil Parrott by 20 points. 20-point spread in this race 2 years ago. This is now a rematch, and instead of it being a district where Joe Biden won by 23 points in 2020. With this new shaped district in the 6th, he would have only won by 10 points. So this district redrawn, more favoring, still favoring a Democrat, but more favorable to a Republican candidate than it has been in the past. So I realize that's a lot of numbers, a lot of maps, a lot of lines, a lot of things I'm throwing at you, but that's going to be critical when it comes to how these races get decided tonight, and that'll be a contentious point that we'll be discussing here all night long. Zoe, Leslie?
Okay. Thank you, Adam. All right, so right now we want to zero in on one of the biggest races underway right now in Maryland. You probably know what we're talking about by now, the race for governor. Democrat Wes Moore taking on Republican Dan Cox. Moore could make history becoming the first black governor in that state if elected.
Yeah, our team is keeping tabs on both campaigns tonight. Our Casey Nolan is at Dan Cox's campaign headquarters in Annapolis. And Casey, will get to you in a minute, but let's start with Larry Miller at Wes Moore's headquarters in Baltimore, where it is really hyping there.
It is. Maybe about 3 minutes ago, we had an announcer come on the stage and said, "Welcome to the Wes Moore Victory Party." There's a high level of confidence here. And about 20 minutes ago, I spoke with someone from the campaign and I asked this question: how are you feeling about what you're seeing tonight? And he said squarely, they're really confident about what they're seeing thus far, and they expect to have a good night tonight. And certainly the energy in here is certainly suggestive of that as well. But in addition to Wes Moore, we're also expecting to see kind of history being made tonight. Democrats are hoping that they will clean up the entire slate. The governor, lieutenant governor, state comptroller, as well as attorney general. That if Democrats take all of those seats, history will be made. I had the chance a second ago to speak with Aisha Brayboy. She's the state's attorney from Prince George's County. And I asked her about a range of issues from crime to what we're seeing tonight. Take a listen. I'm Larry Miller here at the Wes Moore and Aruna Miller campaign headquarters. I'm joined now by Aisha Brayboy, state's attorney for Prince George's County. I want to get your thoughts on where this campaign has gotten us to at this point and how you're feeling about the results tonight.
You know, when Wes was at 1%, there were folks like me who believed in him. We supported him, we endorsed him because his vision was so huge. It was so important that we had someone who we could believe in. And so through this campaign, he demonstrated the diligence, the care, the commitment to the people of the state of Maryland. And today we're going to reward him by making him governor, the first black governor here in the state of Maryland.
When we talk with voters today, many of them were concerned about this issue of crime. This is something that you deal with specifically. Is there a crime issue in Maryland?
There's a crime issue all across the country. Since the start of the pandemic, we have had an issue of crime, especially with our younger people. But someone like Wes, I believe, will assist us in making sure that we have the resources to address problems of crime, but also can provide that hope we need for our future, because we can't jail everyone. Not everyone's going to be locked up forever. These are people in our communities who are coming home, and we need to make sure that they have a future when they come home. And Wes has said he's not going to leave anyone behind, and that includes people who have made mistakes.
Whether it's Wes Moore or Dan Cox, we're still waiting for those results to come in.
Well, I think we know where that's going.
But I want to get your perspective on this. Regardless of who is in the governor's mansion, you're still going to have to work with that person.
Yeah,
what do you want to see from them in the first 100 days?
So what I want to see is a real plan to assist states' attorneys by, number one, increasing our complements. We need more prosecutors, and we also need pay parity. We need to pay our prosecutors. These are tough, smart legal minds who are helping to protect our communities, and the same opportunities that our police have to have a strong pension, our prosecutors need to have. And so I'm looking forward to talking with Wes about the importance of funding prosecutors' offices and making sure that we are able to retain smart and tough prosecutors.
All right, Aisha Brayboy, State's Attorney from Prince George's County, thank you so much. All right, we'll send it back to you. Okay, a little TV magic there. That was recorded earlier, and so you just saw that interview with Aisha Brayboy where she touched on a host of issues that are important to voters, particularly this issue of crime. That's something that came up several times when we spoke with voters out in Baltimore City at a polling location in Fells Point. But tonight, the optimism is high that we will see history being made here this evening. I want to send it over to my colleague, Casey Nolan, who is with the Dan Cox campaign. at their watch party in Annapolis. I wonder for you, Casey, what is the mood there tonight?
Well, right now you caught us in a break with the band. We've got a praise and worship band in one corner. We've got fully stocked bars in two other corners, and we've got a security guy, a man who told us he's the head of security, just threatened to kick us out a few minutes ago if we didn't stay inside of our little pen here for the media, which is, it's their prerogative, it's their event, but there's not enough room here for all of the press. And I only bring that up to illustrate that there's not a lot of experience on this campaign, and Dan Cox, I think, would tell you that's a good thing. He talks about his campaign as being outside of the establishment, grassroots volunteers, he says, is what he's depending on. If you need more evidence that he's outside of the establishment, Maryland has a popular Republican governor, Larry Hogan, who not only said he won't vote for Dan Cox, he went so far as to call him a QAnon whack job. At the same time, despite all of that, and despite polling that shows Wes Moore has a lead in this race, despite polling that shows even 22% of Republicans in Maryland say they won't vote for Dan Cox, despite all of that, he's optimistic. And while the mood might not show it here right now, his campaign says they are optimistic as well, based on, they say, the campaign they have run, but also the way he was received around the state today. Earlier today, Dan Cox voted in Frederick County, and after that, he did a bit of a thank you tour across different polling sites across the state to thank his volunteers. And they say the way he was received, the fact that people knew who he was on site, name recognition can be hard in the statewide race for a first-term freshman state delegate from not one of the bigger cities in the state. They feel like that anecdotal evidence today, plus what they've seen throughout the campaign, they think they have a shot to upset Wes Moore. Again, talked about the Republican governor doesn't have his back, but you know who does? That's former President Donald Trump. He is backing Dan Cox. Remains to be seen if that will help in a state like Maryland, where Democrats have the edge in registered voters. But nevertheless, back to Larry's original question, you might not see it right now, but they tell us they are optimistic. Guys?
The polls closed in Maryland roughly 3 minutes ago, Casey, and already it's not looking good for Dan Cox. We're just getting some new reporting tonight from the Associated Press.
Yeah, the Associated Press has already called this race for Wes Moore. So why don't we go back to Larry Miller right now? Okay, so we're going to wait and get to Larry, but this just happened.
Yeah, he even said, Larry mentioned, a couple of minutes before the polls
they were pretty
closed,
confident that this was going to be Moore's night to make history. AP has just called the Maryland gubernatorial race for Wes Moore, which would make him Maryland's first African-American governor, the third African-American governor in this country's history. We're going to go back to Larry Miller in just a little bit when we can. You're watching our election night coverage here on WUSA 9. Are we going to get a little context from our guests, shall we? Are we doing that? What are we doing now?
Yeah, one of our goals tonight is just to tell you what's happening, of course, with this election, but why.
All right, to do that, we're bringing in some of the brightest minds in our area to help give that some context. And joining us now are Cheryl Laird and David Carroll. Both join us from the University of Maryland. Cheryl Laird is an associate professor of government and politics. David Carroll is an associate professor in the Department of Government and Politics. I trust you all know each other well.
Yes. This is not our first.
We could sense that.
This is not your first rodeo. No. So why don't we start with the information that's just in, the AP calling the Maryland governor's race for Wes Moore. And we've been talking here, no surprise here amongst you two experts. You said that Moore actually had this when he won the primary.
I think when he won the primary and when Cox won the Republican primary, I think basically that put us where we are tonight.
Absolutely. absolutely. I think Cox is a bit more on the conservative lean with respect to where he is, to where the state of Maryland is, even for the Republican Party. I think it might have been an overestimation of how that would play, but in primary elections, typically you have the most loyal to the party turning out. If that base are people who are very much aligned with Trump, they probably leaned with a candidate that was more similar in kind. I think Kelly Schultz might have made this a more competitive race for the Republican Party, but Wes Moore is also a very favored individual in the state.
So Cheryl, what can national Democrats learn from Wes Moore's campaign? You know, we've seen Joe Biden there, we saw former President Barack Obama, you had the vice president coming in as well. He got this special treatment from these folks. So can we glean anything from how he campaigned?
Yeah, I mean, I think he's signaling a lot about the future of the Democratic Party, even on the national level, right? Gubernatorial office is often an opportunity for someone to move up the ranks, potentially run for higher office, and could be headed even into the presidency in some years to come. And I think if we're thinking about the future of the Democratic Party, one where people have talked about a very establishment set of individuals, older individuals being at the top of the ticket, even particularly the President of the United States, that he's speaking to a future not only of demographically of where the party is leaning, but also even changes going on in Maryland. Maryland's kind of a microcosm of the larger United States shifts and changes that we're seeing within recent history.
He's a young governor. He's got a young family, 2 young children, a political newcomer, obviously has served the nation, and he's running or was running on this anti-poverty platform, talking a lot about leaving no person behind. And a lot of people are feeling left behind as we're trying to plot forward an equitable immersion from this pandemic.
Yes. I think he was very successful in uniting the Democratic Party. He won the primary, but if you go back and look at the election returns, he didn't have close to 50% of the vote. He was running against several other credible candidates. But what he was able to do in the months since then is stress issues like the one you mentioned that Democrats broadly agree with, and that resonates even with independent voters. And it looks like that's been a successful strategy for him.
Oh, no, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
So let's talk about, both of you can touch on this. You're talking about a guy who has no experience in government. So what are sort of the expectations moving forward? Because he promised a lot. So the bar seems to be really high.
He has a very democratic legislature to work with. You know, President Biden, by contrast, to take example everyone has been following, he can't lose 1 vote in the Senate, you know, and he's done. Moore should have a more favorable set of circumstances in Annapolis. You make a good point that he is a newcomer in some ways, but although he hasn't held office, he's been engaged in public policy for a while, when education reform, poverty, other issues. So he's not new to the issues. He has made contacts with a lot of people in Maryland politics. So I think you're right that expectations for him are high, but he has some favorable circumstances.
He also didn't shy away from being with President Biden at a time when a lot of people have been keeping their distance from the president.
Absolutely, right? And thinking about like where people are in approval of Biden's performance at this point, many have kind of distanced themselves, especially in closer races. But in this case, it actually is probably a good signal to the leadership within the party, right? The respect for the status quo, respect for the establishment, especially an elder within the party, and the positionality that he has. And additionally, I think in terms of his ability to move in the state legislature, I think he'll have a lot of space to really kind of have latitude there. 1, because it's democratic. 2, he's not inheriting often what we see of African American people who move into positions of power, which is considered the hollow prize, right? It's not a problematic circumstance. The budget is in a good position, in a good space. So really it's a matter of maintaining that over time in the administration.
Was the state poised for this to happen now? I mean, as we take a look at the demographics of Maryland, it has become a majority minority state. And this signals the first black governor for the state at a time when the state looks more like Wes Moore and other people of color.
Absolutely. I think seeing even the top 2 people in the Democratic ticket were Tom Perez and Wes Moore, and particularly with Latinos within Maryland really siding more with Tom Perez, and Wes Moore getting a lot more of the African American vote, but a consolidation of that now once he's been designated as the Democratic candidate, and a clear signal about where we are moving, and even for projections for the U.S. going into 2050, right? Like that there is this argument about how we're going to see more people of color within the U.S., the demographic of majority minority being like national, that we are kind of really a microcosm of what that's going to look like, and Wes Moore being really the kind of leadership of that.
Yeah, we want to point out as well that on your screen you're looking at the Wes Moore, what they're calling a victory party there in Baltimore, Maryland. Presumably we're going to be hearing from him shortly, but talk about a quick decision by the Associated Press.
Yeah, it was
closed just
it was
minutes
five,
ago.
It was 5 minutes after the polls closed that we got this information.
race for governor.
5 minutes.
I know, but this is going to be a contrast. There are going to be races that we won't know for days, and they will shy away from calling for days. But this was just not a close race. It really wasn't. I mean, and Maryland is a Democratic-leaning state, all things being equal. So you're mentioning before, Wes Moore was happy to be seen with President Biden. President Biden is not popular nationally. I think if Wes Moore were running in Michigan, he might make a different choice. But he's still more popular in Maryland than in the country as a whole. And I think Shell made good points that he wants to show connection to the current leadership of the Democratic Party. So it wasn't really dangerous for him to be seen with President Biden the way if he were running in Ohio, it might be more problematic.
Can we talk about his lieutenant governor as well, Aruna Miller, the first immigrant, the first, and not the first woman. The first woman to be lieutenant governor was Kathleen Kennedy Townsend. But Aruna Miller is making history tonight too.
Right, is an Indian American, Asian American. She is also a historic figure in her way. And I think lieutenant governors don't usually get that much attention, but I think they work together fairly well as a team. And it will be interesting to see, the amount of influence they have really depends on their relationship with the governor. A governor can give a lieutenant governor something to do or can marginalize them. And we'll have to see if they remain a team once they get into office.
They appear to be a partnership. And so, as you say, we'll see how this all goes. Don't go anywhere.
Yeah, we got a lot more to talk about.
Stay here.
We want to get back to our Larry Miller now, who has been with the Wes Moore campaign in Baltimore. And Larry, what are they celebrating yet with this news from the Associated Press calling the race for Wes Moore?
Yeah, no doubt. They've been celebrating since we first got here, and the news that we just got from the Associated Press calling the race for Wes Moore has only turned the room even more electric than what it was prior. I've had the opportunity to cover the Wes Moore campaign from the very beginning, and this campaign was different in the way in which it was structured. They were very disciplined in their messaging, they were very clear in their tasks, and they also had a very well-structured plan in terms of what they wanted to do, how they wanted to do it, and how they planned to get the votes necessary for them to win the primary, and now for them to win this election. We now have Governor-elect Wes Moore and Lieutenant Governor-elect Aruna Miller. And for so many people in this state, this is a big deal for them. When we think about representation, how people see themselves, where people see themselves, the fact that the state will have its first African-American governor and an immigrant American who will be representing the office of Lieutenant Governor. For voters that I spoke with today, they said that for them was a big deal. But they also are very clear that they have work to do once they get to Annapolis. There are issues of the economy that they're concerned about, taxes, particularly in Meriden, and how those taxes affect our retirees. And they also want them to deal with schools, improving the quality of education in the state of Maryland, and making sure, as the theme that we've heard from the Wes Moore campaign has been from the very beginning, that no one in the state gets left behind. But no doubt, a lot of excitement here. They were hopeful from the very beginning that they had the votes, that they were going to be able to do what they needed to do in terms of this campaign. One of the things that we saw from this campaign early on is that they were focusing on every single county, all 23 of Maryland's counties, and they were going to those areas that were deeply red, where there was essentially very few Democrats, because they said they wanted to make sure that this campaign was seen in every corner of the state, and that Wes came across as and connected with voters, Republicans, Democrats, even independents as well. So it looks like that strategy has been successful. We will wait to hear what the campaign will say about the traditional call that we expect that Wes Moore will have with Dan Cox. I'm going to try to pull someone over from the campaign staff, but everyone just kind of ran away about 2 or 3 minutes ago as soon as this news was made. So we'll see what we can get you momentarily.
Hopefully you can hear us, Larry, but really quickly, because yes, you have been with the Moore campaign from the very beginning, covering this campaign. And what I find fascinating, and you touched on this before, they've been very measured in terms of how they campaign and very cautiously optimistic, not taking any of these votes or potential voters for granted.
You're right, Lorenzo. In that last interview that I had with him just a few weeks ago, I asked the question about, how are they feeling on the campaign trail? What are they seeing on the campaign trail? And Wes Moore told me very pointedly that they were always running this race like they were 10 points behind, and every day waking up, trying to figure out what they needed to do to make up those 10 points. And that sort of strategy clearly worked for them because they were willing to go to places and engage voters that traditionally we wouldn't see Democrats do, a strategy that appeared to work. But another thing that I think is important to mention, I asked the question about the history potentially that could be made as well. That's something that Mr. Moore typically didn't kind of address initially. He kind of had to pry that information out of him. But when we started to kind of dig into that, he was clear that the potential history that was made or that has been made here tonight was not lost on him. But he's committed to the work and making sure that he represents all Marylanders, making sure no one feels left behind. Guys?
Tonight is the night for celebration, for standing in the moment of the milestone in the history. Tomorrow we'll be drilling down on the specifics of what Governor-elect Wes Moore will do for the state of Maryland. We'll talk a bit more about that a little bit later. While we wait for more results to come in, we want to take a look in the crystal ball.
Bring in Larry Sabato, the founder and director of the University of Virginia Center for Politics and oversees the school's Crystal Ball website, which forecasts likely outcomes of political races.
And you have been making predictions for a very long time, Larry Sabato. I mean, I guess we might as well just start with what we know right now. The AP called it for Wes Moore. I think you predicted that some time ago as well. So let's get you to react to that, and then we'll talk more about your predictions.
Well, I wish all races were as easy to predict as that one. That was not even vaguely close, and it wasn't ever going to be even vaguely close. Maryland was not going to elect a Trump-endorsed, very conservative Republican as governor. Who knows what might have happened had Governor Hogan's choice been nominated in the GOP primary. But look, overall, what we're looking at, and I think just about everybody's had a sense of this, is a Republican night in a midterm election of a Democratic president who's relatively unpopular with the highest inflation in 40 years. It's very tough to win in a year like that if you're a Democrat, if you're, in a sense, representing all of that. My guess is it would have been worse for Democrats had there not been the overturning of Roe v. Wade. Maybe that's the silver lining to that decision for those who oppose what the Supreme Court did. It helped make Democrats more competitive, but it couldn't save them. So they're very likely to lose the House. The Senate, you can argue about. We think it's edging to the Republicans. And governorships are a mixed bag. This one is switching. Maryland is switching from Republican to Democratic. The same will happen in Massachusetts, Republican to Democrat. But there are other states in the western part of the United States, Nevada, for example, that will be doing the opposite.
Like a red wave
of
sorts here.
Yeah, and Larry, you mentioned that your home state, Virginia, will be an early barometer of what we can expect. What are you seeing there right now? What are you anticipating?
Well, you have three races that are considered to one degree or another competitive. The most competitive is down in the Virginia Beach area. The second, it's a redistricted district that has hurt the Democratic incumbent because of what was left out of it. A lot of Democratic precincts in the city of Norfolk. So the Republican, Jen Kiggins, has been expected privately for quite some time, really on both sides, to be the favorite to win that seat. It hasn't been declared, can't say for sure. I still expect that to happen. Lane Luria is the Democratic incumbent, served 2 terms. She's on the January 6th committee, but the odds were stacked against her. The most interesting one is in Northern Virginia, the 7th, which again is heavily redistricted. And the incumbent, who actually was the incumbent in another district for the most part, is Abigail Spanberger, a Democrat, and she's running against Republican Yesli Vega. That is considered close and competitive. The early returns are not close and competitive, but you have to wait on that because the returns can be very scattered and misleading. So that's the one we're looking to see whether or not this is going to be an even bigger Republican wave than we might have thought. I think of it more as a tide than a wave, but I grew up on the water. Anyway.
Natural analogy.
Yeah, Spanberger and Vega. You want to watch that one. The third one is in the Virginia 10th, which is also northern and western Virginia. And it's the most Democratic of the three. The incumbent Congresswoman Jennifer Wexton, two-termer, is expected to win again, but we want to look to the margin. Now, should she lose, it tells me that Republicans are going to be doing extremely well across the country. Should it be a close vote, then it also suggests Republicans will be able to win a fair number of those kinds of seats. If it's a comfortable margin, if it's a 54-46, something like that, then Democrats may be able to hold Republican losses down to 20, 15. We think at my crystal ball operation, it's going to be 24 seats, potentially more gains for the Republicans, so they would be up in the 230s.
Have a whole lot of time left with you, but I got to ask you, as you project this out and you prognosticate, you talk about how this is going to be a good night for Republicans. What happened? Did the Democrats ignore the issues that people traditionally wanted to hear about, the economy, a number of things in lieu of abortion rights and democracy? I mean, how did we get here?
I've been tweeting a little bit, making fun of pundits who talk about how the Democrats failed because of messaging, poor messaging. You can't message your way out of the highest inflation rate in 40 years. I mean, it's just a part of the record, and people are going to vote on that. They're going to vote on other issues too, some favoring Democrats, some favoring Republicans. But there are fundamentals in elections, whether they're midterms or presidential or gubernatorial. And parties have a hard time, difficult time, maybe impossible time overcoming fundamentals that are very, very bad for them. And this is a perfect example in this midterm election of 2022.
All right.
I don't see any way that the Democrats could have messaged their way to a victory.
All right, Larry Sabato, thank you so much. And for you at home, we're glad you're with us for this expanded digital election night coverage.
Yeah, right now we're going to take a brief pause to get ready for a 5-minute news cut in on TV. So don't go anywhere. We'll keep those results scrolling on your screen.
Yeah, our special coverage will continue in just a few minutes. This is a WUSA 9 Election Night Update. We're all over tonight's biggest races in Virginia, Maryland, and D.C. Good evening. I'm Lorenzo Hall.
I'm Leslie Foster. And The Associated Press has just declared Wes Moore as the winner of the race for Maryland's next governor. Democrat Wes Moore has defeated Republican Dan Cox. Larry Moore is at the Wes Moore campaign headquarters. They have been calling this night a victory party from even before it was announced. And are we hearing something behind you, Larry?
Our choice, our education, our health care, our democracy.
In the state, mainly those associated with the state legislature, they're starting to give speeches right now as we await not just for Wes Moore and Arula Miller to speak, but we also want to get more data on where some of the other candidates stand in this race as well, namely Brooke Learman for state comptroller as well as Anthony Brown for Attorney General. But as the Associated Press made that declaration that Wes Moore is now Governor-elect Wes Moore and will be the state's first African-American governor, this room erupted. This has been a long fought campaign season with Moore and his campaign being very disciplined in their messaging, focusing on one theme, leave no one behind. Kind of a nod to his military service, but also a way, he says, of pushing the state forward, making sure that the policies that his administration now will be charged with coming out with impact all Marylanders and allow everyone to get a certain level of success. In addition to that, the Moore campaign will be charged with dealing with some serious issues within the state. The economy is issue number one for many voters as they feel that the inflation is having a substantial impact on their pocketbooks. In addition to that, crime. Many voters that we spoke with today, particularly those in Baltimore City, say they are fed up with the crime and they want something done about it. So much, in fact, that many voters that we spoke with say that they were supporting Dan Cox because they felt that he was the better candidate to address the issue of crime in the state. But it looks like now that will be Governor-elect Wes Moore and Lieutenant Governor-elect Aruna Miller responsible for coming up with policies that will drive the crime down and make Maryland a safer place. Guys?
It's still early for them.
They do, and they have a big task ahead too.
Right.
So, all right, we'll be back with another local election night update in 30 minutes, and we'll have up-to-the-minute results tonight on WUSA 9 News at 11.
Yeah, but right now our coverage continues on our free streaming service WUSA 9 Plus and our WUSA 9 app. We'll see you soon.
All right, we're back with our live coverage of the 2022 midterm elections. You voted, and now we are waiting for the results. Good evening. Glad you're joining us tonight for our live coverage this election night. I'm Adam Longo.
And I'm Delia Gonzalez. We'll be with you all night long, so please stay with us. We're covering everything that you need to know, from the big national races to the local races right here at home. Polls just closed 33 minutes ago for both Maryland and D.C., but Adam, you first have some look at some big races happening nationally.
Yeah, I want to first hone in on the congressional district races that are the ones that are at most at odds, the most contested ones here in our area. I was just checking a second ago. So we're following three of them, right? We're following the District 7 race, which is where incumbent Abigail Spanberger is in Virginia. We're following the District 10 race, which is where incumbent Jennifer Wexton is in Virginia. And we're following the Maryland District 6 race, which is where incumbent David Trone is. Now, just checked a second ago, we do not have numbers in that Maryland district race just yet, but we are going to go to the numbers, and I'm going to take you through District 7, District 10, and then if there's time, I'll take you down to Virginia Beach and District 2, right? So let's check in right now. Virginia District 10, you might need to take this full, guys, so you can be able to see it much better at home, taking me off the screen. So right here, we've got about 50% of the votes counted. So by votes, you'll notice it doesn't say precincts, it says votes. So that's going to include the in-person votes and the mail-in ballots. Half of the votes cast have now been counted, and as you can see, the incumbent Jennifer Wexton leading by a very, very small margin, 91,000 votes, just a little more than that, to Hung Kao, the retired Navy captain, 88,661 votes. So quick math says you've got about 3,000 votes separating the two of them right now. Let's move further south to District 7, and that is where Abigail Spanberger, the incumbent, is trailing challenger Yesli Vega, a former sheriff's deputy in Central Virginia there. She, with 60% of the votes counted in this race, Vega leading with 53% of the vote by about 11,000 votes at this point. Another Virginia race that we're keeping a close eye on is down in the Hampton Roads area, Newport News, Virginia Beach. This a matchup between Elaine Luria, who's the independent, a Democrat, a member of the January 6th Commission. She's already served 2 terms in Congress, but due to redistricting, this has made this district a very tough district for Democrats to try and retain this cycle. Luria's challenger, Jen Kiggins, a retired Navy helicopter pilot, leading with almost half of the votes counted there, leading by, it looks, 20,000 votes. So still more votes to come in, but this one looking a little wider than the other ones that we've seen. I talked to you about District 6 in Maryland. It's not even going to come up right now because we don't have any results coming in that race, but I can give you a different map and show you here what this looks like. Because of redistricting, District 6 in Maryland includes Washington County, Garrett County, Allegheny County, and then Frederick and parts of Montgomery County. This is a matchup between incumbent David Trone and State Delegate Neil Parrott, a rematch of a race that happened 2 years ago, Trone winning that race by 20 points. So again, redistricting, something that we are following closely in these congressional races. Just with polls closing across the country, I want to give you a more wide scope now. Let's look at how things are shaking out across the nation. So I've got 2 maps I can show you, the first of which is reflective of the balance of power in the Senate. So you see the red states coming in here. These are the Republican states. So in Florida, to not much surprise right now, Marco Rubio has been declared the winner in the Senate race there over challenger Val Demings, the former chief of police in Orlando and also a former member of Congress as well. Rubio winning by more than just under 1 million votes there. Also, the Associated Press reporting that incumbent Florida Governor Ron DeSantis prevailing over challenger Charlie Crist, a former governor of Florida and also former congressman as well. So on this Senate map, you see the states here that are in the light blue. We're talking about Ohio, North Carolina, and Georgia. These are the states that we're going to be closely watching tonight because the balance of power in the Senate could fall into one of these states. These are one of the states that are up for grabs. So right now in Ohio, you've got just over a quarter of the votes counted. The Democrat Tim Ryan is leading over J.D. Vance by about 200,000, just under 200,000 votes. In North Carolina, the race to succeed the retiring Senator Richard Burr. Ted Budd right now, the Republican candidate, trailing Sherry Beasley by about 110,000 votes, if my math is right there. And then we'll check in on the the race in Georgia, which of course has gotten a lot of following, a lot of attention on this one. Right now, the incumbent Democrat Raphael Warnock leading with about 37% of the votes counted by about 100. Oh, we just got some more votes in now, 37% in. And look, it's about an even split of about 100,000 votes separating these two candidates. Now, this is a particularly interesting race because I want you to look here at the yellow, Chase Oliver, who is a libertarian candidate. I've never heard of him. You've never heard of him. Nobody's ever heard of him outside of Georgia, right? So we're thinking, why does this guy matter? Here's why it matters in Georgia. Because you'll remember back 2 years ago in 2020, the decision-making race for the United States Senate came down to Georgia, but it didn't happen on election night, right? It happened on January 5th, 2021. That's because there was a runoff. So in the race between Raphael Warnock and Herschel Walker, the Democrat and the Republican, if neither of those candidates reaches 50% or higher, there's going to be a runoff. And that runoff is going to be, again, decided in January. So Chase Oliver, the libertarian candidate, is he able to siphon enough votes away that would force this into a runoff? We likely won't know tonight. This will be a very close race. I mean, think about Georgia in 2020 and how long that took to play out. So they'll be counting votes for quite some time there in Georgia. So again, we're going to be keeping our eye on these key states tonight. Wisconsin is another state with the Senate up for grabs. Ron Johnson, Mandela Barnes, the Democrat. Ron Johnson is the incumbent Republican there. And of course, the race in Pennsylvania, one that we have been paying close attention to nationally. John Fetterman, about 7% of the votes coming in so far. I can't tell you where in the state those 7% is coming in, but right now Fetterman with a commanding lead in just those votes that have come in. Delia?
Adam, great job with that context of the big national races. So let's come a little closer to home and talk about two big races in Virginia tonight. A tight race in our area could decide control of the U.S. House of Representatives. Republican Yesli Vega taking on incumbent Democrat Representative Abigail Spanberger for Virginia's 7th District. So let's head on over to Matthew Torres, who is with the Vega campaign tonight. Matthew, at this point in the evening, how are they feeling?
Hey, Delia, I know with just over 50% of the votes being counted already, there's a sense of excitement, electrified energy, no doubt. Every time the current results are splashed on the TV screens here, they start cheering, knowing that currently Vega is ahead. But it's not only about this race. Any other Republican figures, candidates who either have a really big lead or have already won the race in other parts of the country, they also started cheering. There is a level of confidence already going into tonight's watch party, and they're hanging on to that, hoping that Vega will in fact unseat Representative Abigail Spanberger for the 7th Congressional District seat. Now, what's also going to be interesting, determining what the results will be, is not only who can shift the power of balance of the U.S. House, but it really will be indicative of what Virginians feel are the most important issues facing them right now. You've heard it now from other political experts as well, time and time again, how the economy, inflation, how much people are having to spend at the grocery store for gas. Those are issues that's really resonating well with a lot of voters, a lot of Republican supporters. We know, according to polls, that independent voters also view the economy as being the #1 issue, which is a stark difference compared to Democratic voters here in the district who feel that climate change, abortion rights, racial equality, those are the big issues for them. So really, it's such a vast difference in the type of issues that Virginians in District 7 feel are important. And as just speaking to his supporters here throughout the night, the message that I'm hearing from them as far as Vega is that she is a candidate for the people, that she listens. Whatever Spanberger might be putting out there or doing, it's just not resonating well enough for the people here. Granted, since they are with the Republican Party, they were already going to vote for someone like Vega, but they just said they don't feel a career politician, in their words, will do what it takes to at least resolve the issues that we are currently facing. Again, inflation, economy, and how much gas people are having to spend now. And so it's really an interesting race, something that we are paying close attention to. And I know my colleague Bruce Lushan is also paying close attention to how it will turn out for Spanberger. He's currently at the watch party down in Fredericksburg. Bruce, how's it looking over there?
Hey, Matthew, confidence there, confidence here, definitely. Republican Glenn Youngkin won this district by 5 points in 2021. And the folks here, the Democratic workers here, tell me that it looks to them like Vega is running behind Youngkin. Vega in 22, running behind Youngkin in 2021 by just about that much in the counties that have been counted so far. It is going to be close, they say. A lot of Prince William County, which is a big, big part of this district, yet to count. In Culpeper, they say, it looks like Spanberger is matching President Biden's margin. And again, he won this district by about 6 points. If things go badly here for Spanberger, pundits say that it could be a terrible sign for Democrats, that they're just going to have a rotten, rotten night all over the country. Most analysts say so many races, though, are so close that multiple different scenarios are possible. The respected Cook Political Report has had this race as a toss-up, but UVA's own Larry Sabato says it leans Democratic. Both Democrats and Republicans have poured millions into the campaigns here. I probably don't have to tell you that if you've been watching any TV ads at all. I got a chance to ask Congresswoman Spanberger just a bit ago what she was hearing from voters.
People have been pretty clear in what they're interested in and what they're concerned about, aren't they?
So for many people, it is the cost of living. And so I talk about the things that I've done to work on lowering costs, prescription drug costs, cost at the pump, the cost at the grocery store.
Why do you think we're so divided, and why are so many races so close?
And I think that there's value in having toss-up races, because it means that, I'm accountable to a whole lot of people who have voted for me and a whole lot of people who have not. So when you look at my work in Congress, I endeavor to work across party lines and build coalitions. That's authentically who I am, but it is also inherent in how you serve a district that's diverse ideologically speaking.
But it could also go the other way. I mean, it could mean that each of the candidates is on the extreme, right? I mean, you could win as an extremist too.
Well, in our race, there's one extremist. That's my opponent, and she's not going to win.
Now, Spanberger tells me that she expects to get enough votes counted to win tonight. But if it's really, really close, it could actually come down to mail-in ballots that still are potentially coming in. If they are postmarked today, they still have to be accepted up until Monday. That's the process. And if it takes a while, she says there's no reason to gin up a bunch of conspiracy theories about it. Back to you guys.
It is optimistic, Bruce, to think from Spanberger's point of view that they'll have enough votes to declare victory tonight. But given the closeness of these races, I mean, if it does happen tonight, it could be well into the morning hours when we ultimately get that call. We'll be checking in with you throughout the night, Bruce Lachey.
It could be. And most of our margins have been like 2 points. So. Right. That's close.
Yeah.
Long night ahead.
Yeah, this is one of those races that was redrawn actually to give the Democratic candidate, not purposely, but to give the Democratic candidate a better odds than they had in 2020. So in 2020, this was a +1 Biden district with the same map. It would have been +7.
Ultimately, it was the Supreme Court of Virginia that decided on the maps using special masters that were recommended by Democrats and one by Democrats, one by Republicans. So it's supposed to be fairly nonpartisan. But, I mean, people from Washington suburbs are moving south for affordable housing, so there's that. And the district is much more east-west than north-south as it used to be.
Yeah, you talked about the changing demographics of that jurisdiction now, and a lot of the folks from the city, urban dwellers now moving in, so that's certainly going to change the dynamics tonight. So it'll be a interesting race.
There are 10 counties. I mean, that's a lot of counties, and a lot of them are kind of rural counties. Culpeper, mostly rural, but also Prince William, which is more and more suburban and urban.
All right, we'll be checking in with you here throughout the night, Bruce Lachey. Thank you. And let's just wrap up with just one more thing as we talk about this point. We talk a lot about maps. I mean, we can be sort of map nerds about redistricting and looking at everything, but ultimately it comes down to people and it comes down to issues, and that's one of the things that we'll be closely following tonight. Want to hit up Virginia's 2nd Congressional District. Republican Jen Kiggins, retired Navy helicopter pilot, taking on Democrat incumbent Elaine Luria, who is a member of the January 6th Commission, a former Navy commander herself. Because of redistricting, District 2 mainly covers parts of Norfolk, Virginia Beach, the Hampton Roads area. Analysts are saying this is a very tight race. The last polls had both candidates virtually tied. You can see the results right here, do you?
That's right, really close, and we still have a lot of time to go in the evening, so we will see. They're both Navy veterans, of course, as well. In the race for District 10, Democrat and incumbent Jennifer Wexton, Republican and retired Navy Captain Hung Kao. The 10th is seen as more safely Democratic, but potentially in play if the GOP has a strong night. And we see that Hung Kao is already up at 49. They're very, very tight race.
Yeah, and look at the top left there. That's 83% of all the votes reported, so we are getting close. We've got team coverage following this race. Let's get straight out live to Nathan Baca, who is with the Wexton team. Nathan, I wonder what they're telling you tonight, specifically if you've heard anything concerning whether or not they think they'll have a decision in this race tonight.
Well, the mood is upbeat here at the Wexton campaign. People here are looking at the numbers. They are seeing good news. They are hoping to keep Loudoun County blue. In fact, joining me right now is actually Delegate Danica Rome, who just spoke about just what you hope to see tonight and what this race means for Loudoun County and also this specific district.
Well, so keep in mind, I represent Western Prince William County and the city of Manassas Park, and the state Senate district I'm running for next year also includes the city of Manassas. So bringing that perspective of outer Prince William involved too, where we care so much about the fact that, you know, one, infrastructure is so important to us. Jennifer Wexton voted for the massive infrastructure bill that's going to help us fix Route 28, for example, which is my bread and butter. Two, she voted, you know, she's been a big supporter of feeding hungry kids with universal free school meals like we had the last 2 years. That's so important, especially in a district as diverse as mine is. And in Prince William, we are the 10th most diverse locality in the entire country. We're the most diverse area in Virginia. And we want to welcome our neighbors because of who they are, not despite it. And that means that you can't run exclusionary, divisive campaigns that are designed to single out and stigmatize the very people you represent. She's a great inclusive leader. That's why I'm here to celebrate her tonight.
Thank you very much, Delegate Rome. And again, we are here at this Old Ox Brewery here in Ashburn, where the Wexton campaign is hopeful. They are hoping to see the candidate, the incumbent, take that stage very soon. Reporting live from Ashburn, Nathan Baca, WUSA 9.
No, that's right, and there's a lot of folks there who are probably very thirsty after a long night of voting. So.
You would bet. All right, Nathan, thank you.
All right, so we're so glad that you're with us for the expanded digital election night coverage.
Right now we're going to take, though, a brief pause to get ready for a 5-minute news cut-in that we're going to do on TV on WUSA 9, so don't go anywhere. Those results will keep scrolling on your screen.
Our special coverage will continue in just a few minutes, so stay with us.
This is a WSA 9 Election Night update. We are all over tonight's big races in Virginia, Maryland, and D.C. Good evening. I'm Adam Longo.
And I'm Delia Gonzalez. We start in the Commonwealth tonight, where the polls closed just about 2 hours ago. Let's get an update on some key congressional races there. In the race for District 10, Democrat incumbent Jennifer Wexton is trying to keep Republican and retired Navy Captain Hung Kao from taking her seat. And you can see with 83% reporting, it is very tight, with Jennifer Wexton just inching over 2 percentage points over her challenger, Hung Kao.
And there's another race in our area that could decide control of the U.S. House of Representatives. Republican Yesli Vega taking on incumbent Democrat Representative Abigail Spanberger in Virginia's 7th District.
Here's a look at those latest numbers. We have, with 86% reporting, Yesli Vega at 53%, Abigail Spanberger at 47%, another tight race.
Got a lot of reports from both the Vega and Wexton campaigns. Matthew Torres is in Woodbridge at the Vega watch party.
But first, let's go to Bruce LaShan. He's in Fredericksburg with the Spanberger campaign. Hey, Bruce.
Hey, Delia. Yeah, you look at those raw numbers, things don't look good for Spanberger, but Spanberger, analysts, Democratic strategists, looking deeply at these numbers, they say a lot of Prince William left to come in. And in Stafford County, it was Yunkin plus 11. It's currently Vega plus just 1. A lot of look at the numbers for a while. Let's go to Matthew Torres with the Vega.
Hey, Bruce here. The voters are no doubt excited or eager for the results to come in, hanging on to the current lead that Vega has here. She's been running on economic issues as well as issues on immigration, so-called parental rights and crime, something that's really resonated well with the supporters here. Again, they are hoping that they'll see Vega here soon, as she has the current lead. Again, very excited and electrified crowd so far here at the Vega watch party. Delia and Adam.
Thank you, Matthew, over in Virginia for us tonight. The polls in D.C. closed less than an hour ago, so let's take a look at some results that are rolling into our newsroom right now. In D.C.'s mayoral race, the incumbent Muriel Bowser has 79% of the vote. Her closest challenger, Rodney Red Grant, with 11%, and that's about 16% reporting.
Right. If she wins, which she is expected to do, she would be only the second person to serve 3 terms as mayor, the first, of course, being the mayor for life, Marion Barry. In Maryland, the Associated Press has declared Wes Moore will be the state's next governor. Associated Press projecting the Democrat defeated Republican Dan Cox. Numbers there still coming in. As you can see, just 2% reporting, but based on all of the polling data, Associated Press is very firm in believing that Wes Moore will emerge victorious in this contest.
And the Associated Press came out with that result 5 minutes after the polls closed, so pretty confident in their decision there.
Yeah, Wes Moore will become just the 3rd black elected governor in the United States, the 5th black governor in all in the history of the country.
History being made there. We'll be right back with another local election night update in 30 minutes. We'll have up-to-minute results tonight on WSA 9 News at 11.
Our coverage continues on WSA 9 Plus and our WSA 9 app. We're back on WSA 9 Plus and the WSA 9 app with live coverage of the 2020 midterm election. You voted, and now we are waiting for the results to continue to come in. Good evening. So glad you could share your election night coverage evening with us. I'm Adam Longo.
And I'm Julia Gonsalves. You know, waiting is the hardest part for a lot of folks. We already saw that some races in Maryland have been called, at least by the Associated Press, a new governor, Wes Moore, according to the Associated Press. But it's going to be a long night for so many others. And we're going to be here with you. We're covering everything that you need to know, from the big national races to the local races right here at home.
Yeah, we've got a lot of tight congressional races in Maryland and Virginia, but we want to bring you an update on some key races in the district. If you're just joining us, results are coming in the D.C. mayoral's race. It looks like this one is pretty much in the bag for D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser, seeking a third term, facing independent challenger Rodney Grant. Bowser hoping to become the second person only to serve 3 terms as mayor, the first, of course, being Marion Barry.
Mayor for life. Let's move on to D.C. Council and the race to represent Ward 3. Now, this is Mary Chay's seat. She chose not to seek re-election. There are 3 candidates in this one, and Matthew Fruman, it looks like he is sailing to victory at 56%, reporting at 76% of the vote so far. David Krukoff at 22%. That was a race to watch as well, because there was a little controversy there with Alyssa Silverman and the campaign finance office. But certainly, it looks like he is moving forward.
And we've also got results coming in for Ward 5's council seat. As you can see, with 67% of the votes in, Zachary Parker with 94% of the votes right now, coming in over Clarence Lee with just 5% of the votes. A Republican, this office currently held by Kenan McDuffie. He opted to run for an at-large council seat as an independent.
Right. He picked up the at-large council seat after Attorney General run in the primary did not work out. So D.C. also has a big referendum on the ballot today. Initiative 82. A lot of you are talking about this one. Let's see, with 16% reporting, 75% of voters are deciding yes, that they should pass Initiative 82.
Right, so if this passes, it would change how tipped workers are paid in the district.
That's right. And our Eric Flack is in Northeast D.C. with what voters are saying tonight about Initiative 82. A lot of talk for this one, really since 2018, when voters first wanted to pass Initiative 77. That was overturned by the D.C. Council. And now a second run at 82. So let's go to Eric Flack with what voters had to say.
A steady stream of voters continue to come in and out of this polling place here in Northeast. A lot of big issues on their minds, including Initiative 82. We talked to a number of voters about the impact, not just on the tipped workers, but also their customers. As candidates stumped outside the Turkey Thicket Recreation Center in Northeast late Tuesday, it was a question on the back of the ballot, Initiative 82, that was front and center when we asked which issues voters had the strongest feelings about.
It's really difficult to survive with tips only like that. So I think that initiative will help.
Maybe in the short term, you know, our waitresses and bartenders may be feeling the loss of those tips, but I think that, you know, getting a standard minimum wage is really just going to create a better incentive for everybody.
Right now, the minimum wage in D.C. for tipped workers is $5.35 an hour, with restaurants and bars already making up the difference if those workers don't end up taking home the standard $16.10 minimum hourly wage when you factor in the tips they get. If passed, Initiative 82 would gradually raise tipped workers' base pay, not including tips, until it is equal with the standard minimum wage by 2027. Opponents have painted doomsday scenarios of small independent restaurants being forced to close due to higher labor costs and potential lost income for tipped workers in the high-end establishments.
In terms of tipping, yes, that's true. Some people may make more, but it's a hit or miss. Whereas when you know your salary is going to be increased, it makes a big difference for your bottom line.
It's worth a shot. I mean, if it needs to be tweaked, later on down the road, if it's not perfect, as most programs and systems are, then, we revisit it and try to improve upon it.
If this Initiative 82 passes, it's going to follow similar plans in 7 states, including Minnesota, Oregon, and California. It is also very similar to an initiative that DC voters passed just 4 years ago to increase the wages of tipped workers, but that was ultimately overturned by the DC Council. The DC Council indicating they do not plan to overturn it this time around if Initiative 82 passes. In Northeast, Eric Flack, WUSA 9.
Alert that we're going to be calling for you here in a second. First, want to get you up to speed on, let's go right to it. The Associated Press has now called the District 10 congressional race in Virginia for incumbent Congresswoman Jennifer Wexton. Right now, you can see with 85% of the vote in, Wexton leading by 51% of the vote, a margin of about 5,000 votes, but enough for the Associated Press to say this race is over and Wexton is the victor.
Yeah, we know that was a very tight race. Our Rafael Sanchez Cruz was over at the Hung Cow camp, and a lot of folks were there hoping for a victory tonight. But as you just heard, we did get word from the Associated Press. Now in Maryland, the Associated Press also declares Wes Moore will be the state's next governor. The history being made tonight. The AP projects the Democrat defeated Republican Dan Cox. And those results coming in from the AP at 8:05, 5 minutes after the polls close. You can see, though, still lots of polls need to report in. But right now, with 2% polls reporting 68% going for Wes Moore. And he would make history here. And of course, his lieutenant governor would be the first immigrant to hold office as well.
Yep. All right, I believe we've got Larry Miller standing by at the Wes Moore campaign headquarters in Baltimore. Larry, who you have there with you?
Yeah, I'm joined now by Margaret Holmes, state delegate who represents sections of Prince George's County. Delegate Holmes, good to see you as always, sir.
Thank you so much for having us here.
I want to get your thoughts on what we're seeing thus far. It looks like Wes Moore is now the governor-elect, Aruna Miller, the lieutenant governor-elect, and we've also heard good things about both Anthony Brown as well as now Brooke Learman.
I think it's very exciting, history-making, and I want to emphasize something that I think is very important. A lot of people are talking, and specifically talking about Wes Moore being the first African-American governor. But I want to sidestep that for a moment, because Wes Moore is a very smart, intelligent man. He can take our state to a level that I think we haven't had before. He's a very smart man, going to take us in a different direction, and we need that different direction. He and I have had some conversations relevant to housing, because as you know, I am chair of the Housing and Real Property Subcommittee within the Maryland General Assembly. And there are a lot of things that we need to take care of in the housing community. I have also had a similar conversation with Anthony Brown in reference to some of the housing situations. And I'm very, very excited that we have this blue wave here in Maryland. And I'm really looking forward to working with them, because this is going to be exciting, and we're going to get some really great things accomplished.
What do you want to see? We always talk about the first 100 days as kind of being a benchmark for what an administration will do. What do you want to see in the first 100 days from a Moore-Miller administration?
The first 100 days, I think, I'm hopeful that he concentrates on housing, middle housing. We all know that there's a lack of housing in the state. And the only way we're going to get there is for the middle income families to have housing, affordable housing. And I don't want to use that word affordable housing too frequently. For middle housing is what I think we should use. Now, there are things that we need to talk about in terms of how to get there. We don't want to overburden our neighborhoods, our streets, schools, traffic, but there are ways that we can accomplish this.
Delegate Holmes, thank you so much. Good to see you as always, sir.
It's such a pleasure to be here. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. So you just heard from the state delegate as he was kind of giving us a synopsis, his analysis of what has taken place here tonight. Again, calling it a historic moment, but also making sure, too, that voters not only focus on this win and what it means in terms of the representation that we will now see in the governor's mansion, but also just focusing on Wes Moore, the man. And as we heard from Delegate Holmes, that he says that Wes Moore is a good man, that he feels that will lead the state effectively for the next 4 years in office. Guys?
Yeah, Larry, it was interesting when he said he wanted to sidestep the fact that he's the first African-American governor in Maryland, obviously a candidate and a governor-elect who is much more beyond the historical nature of who he is coming into that office. So I appreciate that context. Thank you, Larry. Well, just in, we have a statement from the current Maryland governor, Larry Hogan, who says, quote, "A short while ago, I spoke to Wes Moore and congratulated him on being elected as Maryland's next governor. There is no higher calling than public service and no greater honor than to serve the people of this great state. Our team is committed to ensuring a smooth and orderly transition to the next administration, and I look forward to meeting with the governor-elect in the coming days."
And from one winner to another, we've been following this Congressional District 10 race in Northern Virginia. We're going to check out live in Loudoun County, where Nathan Baca is standing by at the Jennifer Wexton now victory celebration after the Associated Press has called this race for Jennifer Wexton over her competitor Hung Kao. What is the reaction there? It's got to be jubilant, Nathan.
Well, Adam, we've just heard that the Congresswoman, and now going to be future Congresswoman as well, is coming by in just a minute or so. You can see that empty podium there. You can see people dancing. There's celebrations here in Loudoun County and Ashburn as people prepare for this race to not only be over, but indeed for this next term after she has defeated Hung Kao, the Republican challenger. So this was, in a sense, a victory for keeping Loudoun County in Democratic control. You know, I talked to State Senator John Bell, who said this has been their plan for the past few years. And even though things may get quite tight farther south in the Manassas area, as we see in the Virginia 7th District in the Spanberger Vega race, at least right here in Loudoun County, people here are happy that it has maintained Democratic control in the House. Reporting live in Ashburn, Nathan Baca, WUSA 9.
He comes to the podium there. We would like to come back and hopefully dip into a little bit of that if we're able to. Thanks, David.
And we also have to mention that CNN is the one who is calling that race for Wexton. We initially reported it with the Associated Press. We're now getting a little clarification that is coming from CNN, Jennifer Wexton taking that race. Now, we're glad that you're with us for this expanded digital election night coverage.
We're going to take a brief pause to get ready for a brief news cut-in on WUSA 9 on TV. Don't go anywhere. We're going to keep the results there scrolling along on your screen.
Our special coverage will continue in just a couple of minutes. This is a WUSA 9 election night update. We're all over tonight's biggest races in Virginia, Maryland, and D.C., so we're going to start with the Commonwealth tonight. Polls there closed 2 hours ago, a little over 2.5 hours ago. Good evening, everyone. I'm Delia Gonzalez.
And I'm Adam Longo.
Right now, in the race for District 10, CNN reporting that Democrat incumbent Jennifer Wexton has taken that race. Again, she was challenging Hung Kao. You see the results there on your screen with just 85% reporting. We initially had Jennifer Wexton at 51% of the vote. However, CNN just confirming and announcing that Jennifer Wexton has taken that race in Virginia. We have a team live at both campaign headquarters tonight.
Rafael Sanchez Cruz is live in Fauquier County at the Hung Cow Watch Party. But first, let's check in with Nathan Baca live in Ashburn at the Wexton campaign headquarters. So, Nathan, we just learned that the Congresswoman could speak at any moment.
Yes, the Congresswoman will be speaking at any moment here. There is a mood of joy here. Once the race was called just a few minutes ago, people are waiting for that podium to be taken, and we see a bunch of buzz with the campaign volunteers here waiting for the Congresswoman to take this stage, declare victory, especially because a lot of people are now paying attention to what's happening farther south in the Vega Spanberger race. But there is a mood of happiness here that Loudoun County remains in Democratic House control. Reporting live in Ashburn, Nathan Baca, WUSA 9.
Yeah, well, here at Hung Cow's headquarters at Hume, Virginia, we're seeing the mood switch slightly. They haven't called it yet on the monitor where people are watching closely, but we're definitely seeing a little disappointment from some people as they're slowly getting the Virginia Department of Elections results coming in. I did speak to Hung Cow's team. They're saying that he's expected to take the stage in the next couple of minutes. We, of course, will have more of his reactions at 11 o'clock. I'm live in High Virginia. Rafael Sanchez Cruz, WUSA 9.
Thank you, Rafael. A tight race in our area could decide control of the U.S. House of Representatives. Republican Yesli Vega taking on incumbent Democrat Representative Abigail Spanberger in Virginia's 7th District. If you come out to me, I can actually show you some of the results. About 83% of the votes counted right now. Vega in the lead by a margin of about 6,000 votes, and we're able to break those out county by county. For instance, in Stafford County, you can see how tight things are, just a difference of about 400 votes. I also want to take you into Maryland and show you the Congressional District 6 race between incumbent David Trone. He's been in Congress for 2 terms. A rematch against Neil Parrott, who lost this race to Trone 2 years ago. You see right now a difference of about 6,000 votes in between them. This covering a little portion of Montgomery County, where Trone is very far in the lead. But then take out to Western Maryland, where Parrott holds the edge. This is a close race we'll be watching all night. Delia?
Thanks, Adam. The Associated Press declaring Wes Moore as the winner in the race for Maryland's next governor. Democrat has defeated Dan Cox. We'll be back with another local election night update in 30 minutes, and we'll have the up-to-minute results tonight on WUSA 9 News at 11.
Welcome back to our live coverage of the 2020 midterm election on WUSA 9 Plus and our WUSA 9 app. You have voted, and now we await for the results to continue coming in. Good evening. Glad you could join us for our coverage on election night. I'm Adam Longo.
And I'm Delia Gonzalez. We'll be with you all night long, so stay with us. We're covering everything that you need to know from the big national races. Adam will take care of that, to the local races here at home.
Yeah, so I want to take you through some of the numbers that we're getting in. We just got a big dump from Maryland election officials on the numbers that are coming in. So we were hovering at about 1 to 2% of precincts reporting. Now we're up to 12. Listen, the Associated Press has already called the gubernatorial race for Democrat Wes Moore. You can see him leading by a wide margin of just about 200,000 votes at this point, but he has been declared the winner. I can break down real quick and show you sort of county by county how these numbers are. Again, this is just 12% of the vote, but it might give you a good idea of where things are and where voters are and what they're thinking in different parts of the state. So we'll just, for instance, go out west, right, to Garrett County in western Maryland, right? This is a really red Republican country. Dan Cox leading handily there. We expect certainly that he would in this county. You go to Frederick County, a lot of independent-minded voters. Then you've got a lot of equal numbers of Republicans and Democrats. So in Frederick County, right here, just 4% of precincts reporting. You see Moore in the lead by about 3,000 votes. How about the liberal Democratic areas of Montgomery County and Prince George's County? So you see Wes Moore taking about 80% of the vote so far in Montgomery County. And then in Prince George's County, 91% of the vote. No real surprise there. You would expect Dan Cox to do quite well in the eastern Shore counties as well. Worcester County, he's got about 62% of the vote. I want to take you through real quick, and I just want to show you the other races down the slate here. So in the Attorney General's race, former Congressman Andy Brown leading handily, the Democrat by 68% of the vote. And then in the Comptroller's race, Brooke Learman leading by about double digits with 65% of the vote. Dee?
Thanks, Adam. We're going to head over to Woodbridge now and check in with our Matthew Torres, who's with the Vega campaign. He's in the middle of interviewing Lieutenant Governor Winsome Sears, so let's just listen in. Matthew, you have the Lieutenant Governor with you.
Hey, Delia, we actually just started, we were just in the middle of interviewing her right now, and I was about to ask her, there's been a lot of divisiveness out there. Do you think Vega can work in the bipartisan effort, and what do you think her message should be to the other side if she were to be elected tonight?
Well, we believe that she will be elected tonight just because of the enthusiasm that we've seen everywhere. I mean, we've had so many people coming out to rallies in unexpected areas, and you know, we will work with anyone, and this is not her first rodeo. She's been elected before. She's current sitting county supervisor. She knows how to do this. She's a deputy sheriff. She knows how to show care and all that. So that's not what this is about. This is about people treating each other well. And if the other side is willing to work, of course she's going to do that.
The three biggest topics that she should tackle if she were to win tonight.
Well, she's got to take care of the economy, and of course, that's a lot going to depend on the president and what he's willing to do. I mean, if he gets a shellacking, then he ought to know you've been going down the wrong course. And then when it comes to crime, we've got to get control of that. You see, our borders are not secure, and fentanyl is coming all, through. We've got to know who's coming through and what they're bringing. And then, of course, education. Parents never abrogated their responsibilities on how their child should be educated, and just need to leave the voters alone. Leave us alone, handle your own business, and just life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That's what she's about. She just listened to the voters.
And before I let you go, what is the sense, what's the mood like right now with most of the precincts reporting? I know we still got some more from Prince William County as well as Fredericksburg area. What's the overall mood for you? Is there still a sense of hope?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the early voting that happened, I believe that there may be 30,000 votes that still aren't counted, but she has taken the lead from the very beginning and she hasn't given it up, and so we believe she's going to be victorious in the end, which means the people will be victorious in the end.
Lieutenant Governor, thank you so much for your time, and as she has indicated, there's been a lot of confidence among the voters, including some top officials here in Virginia. We'll send things back over to you.
Matthew, thank you. Let's get to some numbers for District 10 in Virginia. This is where incumbent Jennifer Wexton is looking to fend off a challenger from retired Navy Captain Hung Cao. You can see with 90% of precincts reporting, Wexton leading by about 15,000 votes. CNN, by the way, has projected this race in favor of Wexton, projecting Wexton will be the winner in this race. Something we'll continue to follow, and we understand that she is expected to speak soon, and we hope to get some of that sound turned around in Loudoun County.
Okay, so right now we're going to head over live to our Bruce LaShan. He is with Republican. Oh, I'm sorry about that. We're not going live to our Bruce LaShan, but certainly a tight race there, and we'll be watching to see what the Hung Cow camp has to say at the end of the night.
Yeah, let's actually go out to Loudoun County, and that's where Nathan Baca is standing by with the Wexton campaign. Nathan, go ahead. Yeah, Nathan, if you can.
Can you hear us, Nathan?
Yes, I can. Things are awfully loud out here at the Wexton Victory Party. I can say victory now because everybody's just waiting for Congresswoman Jennifer Wexton to take that podium right there, and in which case all these supporters here are waiting for the moment. We are hearing any minute now. We're hearing that she is in the building here at the Old Ox Brewery here in Ashburn, where the votes consistently have been showing Jennifer Wexton ahead of Hung Cow, and to the point that they have been having this energy here, and also really a lot of her supporters, from Delegate Danica Rome to State Senator John Bell, coming up to this podium earlier and talking about, in a sense, making Loudoun County blue. That effort that happened whenever the race to take out Barbara Comstock, the former Republican congresswoman here some years back, that Jennifer Wexton won that race, and it was what John Bell, the state senator here, called the Western Front campaign, trying to campaign in Western Loudoun County. Granted, Jennifer Wexton had the additional challenge this time around of having to campaign with a slightly different district. With redistricting, she had to take in part of other counties, Frederick County, Virginia, and also more of Prince William. But here, just taking a live look at the people jumping and dancing and waiting for Congresswoman Jennifer Wexton. In fact, I'm looking, I almost see her right on the other end of where those pallets are. I see her campaign people waiting to bring her out any minute now. There's activity here. I'm certain once the Congresswoman comes out, there are going to be just a cheer of people. But in the meantime, let's just kind of take a live look at this situation here. In fact, I'm going to step down from this seat just so you can actually see. I'll get out of the way so you can just take in some of the party atmosphere that is happening here. The dancing, the jubilation, the happiness of Democrats here in keeping the Virginia 10th District blue, keeping it Democratic, because there was concern throughout the entire night whenever there's still looking at what's happening in the 7th District, farther south of here. The fear was that sort of Republican support would start coming into the northern areas of Virginia, and it hasn't happened here. And so there was a sense of relief amongst Loudoun County, Prince William County Democrats. You also see a lot of elected supporters. In fact, the podium, I just see that there is a speech that has just been delivered. Another side, I see the teleprompter is actually loaded with victory speech on the computer. And so what we're going to do is, we've also been hearing from Rafael Sanchez Cruz at the Cow campaign. Rafael, how are things going over there?
Hey Nathan, well, the mood definitely changed in the last couple minutes. We're expected Hung Cow to take the stage just in a few seconds, really. His team just came over. They're face has completely changed, but they're saying he's ready to give that speech. He's going to mobilize voters here in the 10th district of Virginia. We started off the night hearing from people expecting that red wave in those 3 seats here in Virginia, but now we're definitely seeing that switch. We've been seeing people constantly checking on their phones, checking the screen, seeing when that's going to be called. That decision has not been called here, that race has not been called here in the room, but without a doubt, people have noticed that the numbers are not in favor of Hung Kao, and obviously they are in favor of the incumbent, Jennifer Wexton. We'll have more of Hung Kao's message. What is his plan moving forward? Is he still going to maintain himself in politics? We've heard it from people here. They're interested in him because he is a political newcomer, and they want more veterans to hold a seat in Congress. So we're going to hear what his future plans, if he has any, in the state of Virginia. Here in the Commonwealth, we'll have more at 11. I'm live, Rafael Sanchez Cruz, WUSA 9.
Thank you, Rafael. You know, we've both been out into the field reporting on these election nights, and you can feel the energy of the room drain when the results start coming in for the the person who didn't win.
Well, what's more stark when you have on one side people dancing,
right,
people smiling, and then the other side everyone's just sort of standing there,
right,
static.
Right, and despite those cans, it's loud and it's hard to hear. So Nathan did a great job amongst the party going on there.
Yeah, listen, we want to talk more about these races, these tight congressional races, and their impact on who controls the U.S. House. No one's better positioned to have that chat with us than Larry Sabato.
Sabato is a professor at the University of Virginia and the director of the Center for Politics. He also oversees the school's Crystal Ball website. It forecasts likely outcomes of political races. Larry, thanks so much for joining us via Zoom. We appreciate you joining us tonight. So let's get your outlook on how things have shaped up in Virginia so far.
Yes, and of course, let's remember that numbers can be transposed and problems can happen. And so you don't want to conclude anything before a big margin develops or before a race is officially called. But the 10th has been called, at least by CNN, and I think that's correct. It's about 6 points, 53-47. Now, I have to say, in that district, which is a Democratic district, Hung Kao got 47%. That's a perfectly respectable showing. But for Jennifer Wexton, it's a very solid showing, and I'm sure she's greatly relieved that she wasn't one of the Democrats that maybe lost their seat tonight. So she's in pretty good shape. The other 2 close races, though, one is clearly leaning Republican, as we expected, down in the 2nd District of Virginia Beach area. Incumbent Elaine Luria, a Democrat, 2-term Democrat who's on the January 6th committee, right now seems to be losing to Jen Kiggins, a state senator who's the Republican nominee. As I say, that was pretty much expected. I think the cooking was done some time ago on that one. The one everyone is watching is the 7th. Now, there may be an update in numbers since I got in position for you, but what I last saw had it as tight as a tick between the 2 of them, with the lead going back and forth a percent or so. That is going to be fascinating. What the final result is, I think they're 4 or 5% outstanding, although that could be misleading. You never know what that really means when they say there's 3, 4, 5% still outstanding. So we'll have to see who emerges as the winner, but it matters a lot, not just for the totals in the House. It matters because it's going to signal one way or the other how well Republicans may be doing in suburban districts like that one in key localities around the country.
Well, Larry, let's get into that for a second. Are these margins in these tight races in Virginia right now, are they telling you anything as to they could be a bellwether either way for these other tight races in the other parts of the country, the Midwest, and as we move west, or is it still too early to tell from that? Is there anything that you're able to take away so far on a national scale that might be surprising to you at this point?
Well, I wouldn't say surprising, but I want to have the right to revise this once we actually get the results in from other places. But if I'm seeing what I'm seeing, if it's accurate in these 3 districts in Virginia, it kind of suggests there is not a big Republican wave, a big red wave, a tidal wave, but there is a Republican tide. And by the way, that's what I've been saying for months. It wasn't going to be, at least post-Dobbs, it wasn't going to be a tidal wave. it would be more like a tide pulling the House in a Republican direction. And that's pretty much what it seems to be. You know, there was a district up in Rhode Island that was tagged as a likely turnover to the Republicans, and they rarely win seats in New England. Well, it's not quite been called, but it seems pretty substantially true that the Democrat has ended up winning that district, and it's more than a few points. So that also, to me, says it's not a tidal wave, it's a tide. It's a red tide, which is very different than a tidal wave, which sweeps everything away that's not nailed down.
So you haven't necessarily seen that red wave, but how has redistricting played into the results that we're seeing so far tonight? And what do you glean from that and as you're looking forward into the future of these races?
Well, you should ask Congresswoman Elaine Luria, who probably will be leaving office. She was done in by redistricting, this new process that the voters passed. And then, of course, the legislature couldn't come together in a bipartisan way. What a shock. And then it went to the state Supreme Court, and they hired special masters to do it. And I've got to tell you, the district they designed for Elaine Luria meant that in any year like this one that leaned Republican, she was going to lose. Again, this has been known for some time. Both parties have said this in private, at least, for many, many months. They took a lot of Democratic precincts in the city of Norfolk out of that district. Well, she lost a big part of her base. So redistricting did play a role. And in the 7th, that is a newly constructed district. And for Spanberger, the vast majority of it is new. She had not represented it for 4 years. She represented pieces of it. And so when you get new territory, even as an incumbent, it means you're in trouble because you have to campaign extensively in the new territory, and you lose the advantages of having been an incumbent for 4 years because they don't know you at all. So that one's very close. It could go either way, but it tells me that, again, redistricting has had a major role, much less so in the 10th, where Jennifer Wexton has clearly won.
Right. So what I'm hearing from you, though, Larry, is that not only for this election cycle, but really for the next decade, it's going to be the 2nd, the 7th, and the 10th that are going to be razor close for Virginia elections, given the mood of the electorate and how things can swing back and forth.
Yeah, I would say more so the 7th than the other two. Second, I would put the Virginia 2nd, the Virginia Beach area. Third distant third, I think, would be the 10th. And look, it's always possible some other district that's constructed for one party can become competitive because an incumbent retires or there's a scandal or, there are so many things that could happen. But I'm looking at the results for the other 8 districts, and it wasn't even vaguely close. The incumbents won by very wide margins. So this process, supposedly designed to create more competition, actually tenured in 8 of the congressmen. Not a very successful system, I'd say.
Larry, I know you had mic'd up a short time ago and didn't see the latest results in some of the races, but you did indicate that it's very, very tight when we're talking about Spanberger and Vega. Do you anticipate that we'll get any kind of inkling of who is going to win that race tonight, or do you anticipate that we'll be waiting for the days to come with all the write-in ballots and the mail-in ballots, rather?
Well, obviously, it depends on whether the final result, or at least the preliminary final result, once you have all the precincts reporting, is within, a few hundred ballots. Then, of course, you'll have the registrars reviewing the tallies to make sure there weren't transposed numbers, which does happen with some frequency. And if it's close enough, it will go to automatic recount. Now, that doesn't happen that often, but it does happen. Virginia's had some statewide recounts in the modern period as well. So, sure, it could go that way, or the remaining 3, 4, 5% that's out, at least the last time I saw the tally, that could change the result. Maybe it pushes a point or two in one direction or the other, and then we have a much clearer idea of who won. Yeah. But my last look at it was 20 minutes ago or so.
Well, Larry Sabato with the University of Virginia Center for Politics. Your crystal ball is always the bright spot in the lead up to any campaign season. We certainly appreciate you breaking out and taking some time to speak with us tonight. Good seeing you again, Larry.
Happy to be with you, and good luck tonight.
And we're just getting word that Jennifer Wexton is speaking. I think prior to getting to that, we'll just go through the Maryland question number 4.
Oh, here she is.
Here she is now.
Let's listen in live.
After years of all talk and no action, we passed a once-in-a-generation bipartisan infrastructure investment bill to restore our roads, bridges, and transit, plus make universal broadband a reality. We'll be making America more competitive with American workers thanks to our CHIPS and Science Act, which will be crucial to making U.S. business more competitive globally and creating jobs here at home. We're lowering prices and tackling inflation. The top issue I've heard from families here in the past year is how rising prices have become a burden on their budgets, and that's why I was proud to vote to pass the Inflation Reduction Act, which is saving tens of thousands of people in our district hundreds of dollars a year on their health insurance premiums, and capping the cost of prescription drugs for Medicare beneficiaries by finally empowering Medicare to negotiate drug prices. We've seen gas prices drop and drop as we've worked with the administration to ensure adequate supply and hold big oil companies accountable for profiteering off of everyday Americans. There's no reason that they should be making record profits while we suffer at the pump. We're working to bring our community together. We've achieved progress on long-standing bipartisan priorities like gun violence prevention and keeping our communities safe. Getting toxic exposed veterans the healthcare support they deserve, and delivering expanded resources.
Congresswoman Jennifer Wexton winning her seat there in District 10. She will now become a third-term incumbent Congresswoman.
Stay with us. We will continue our coverage of election night 2022 when we return. This is a WUSA 9 election night update. We're all over tonight's biggest races in Virginia, Maryland, and the District of Columbia. Good evening. I'm Delia Gonsalves.
And I'm Adam Longo. The polls in Maryland closed just a couple of hours ago. In Maryland, the state's closest congressional contest right now is the District 6 race. And as you can see right now, with just a handful of votes in, David Trone right now is leading that race. David Trone is the incumbent congressman leading over his challenger, Neil Parrott. This is a rematch of a congressional district race in District 6 from 2 years ago. Trone leading 52% to 48%. Looks by a margin of about 3,000 votes. This one's still too close to call.
That's right. We have team coverage tonight. Scott Broom is live in Hagerstown at Neil Parrott's watch party. But first, let's go to John Henry, who is live in Frederick at Trone's campaign watch party. Hey, John.
Hey guys, yeah, we're downtown Frederick right now, and you can see this place is packed with David Trone supporters. They've been here for the last hour and a half or so. They say they're confident that their candidate can pull this race off and defeat Neil Parrott for a second time in 2 elections. As you were saying, this is a close race so far. Right now, Parrott is leading in the westernmost counties, but Trone has a lead in Frederick and Montgomery County. You can bet that he's trying to, or he hopes that lead will widen in this part of the 6th district. But right now I'm going to throw it up to Scott Broom in Hagerstown right now, where he's following Neil Parrott's campaign. Scott, what are you seeing?
Well, John, a lot of people here are thinking this: redistricting.
That's what's happened in this district. It's why it's so competitive. Big chunks of deep blue Montgomery County were taken out of this district, and that is resulting in this very close race tonight. The farther west you get in Maryland, the more conservative it is. And here in Washington County, they came out very heavily for Neil Parrott. A lot of long faces at other Republican parties around the state, but not here. They're hanging on and hoping that this will go their way. It may come down to mail-in ballots. We may not know for a couple days.
That parrot over your left arm is hanging on for dear life as well. Scott Broom in Hagerstown for us. A well-placed parrot, by the way. Thank you, Scott. In Maryland also, the Associated Press declaring Wes Moore will be the next governor of the state. The Associated Press projecting that the Democrat has defeated Republican Dan Cox. You can see with about a quarter of the votes in. Wes with a commanding lead, 62% of the votes.
The only U.S. Senate race in our area is the one in Maryland. Incumbent Democrat Senator Chris Van Hollen being challenged by Republican Chris Chafee. And right there with 27% reporting, Chris Van Hollen is up by 63% of the votes.
Let's go, and Wes Moore's about to speak. Let's listen in live.
Family now just congratulating each other and supporters. He has been named the governor-elect of Maryland, the first black governor of Maryland.
Looks like we just missed his speech. We'll be able to turn some of that sun around for WSA 9 News at 11.
We'll see you in a few minutes. We'll be back here tonight.
Thank you, Maryland! Oh, we love y'all. Thank you, thank you, thank you, Maryland. Thank you. What an amazing night and what an improbable journey. That's right. Well, I'm thankful. I just had a chance to speak with Governor Hogan, who shared his congratulations, and I want to thank him for his truly kind and compassionate call. So thank you, Governor Hogan, for your call. And I first want to start by all of you who are making tonight happen. The wait staff, the hotel staff, the security, our remarkable DJ Tons for keeping us going. And I also want to take a moment to thank all of you who made tonight happen. All right? The volunteers. The super volunteers. The ones who went and knocked on doors. You text banked. You put signs in your yards. You put signs in your neighbors' yards. Even if they didn't ask for it. But you all worked. You worked and you took this election personally. Personally. And I am so grateful because you believed. You believed at a time when sometimes believing isn't easy. When our days are dominated by cynicism and mistrust. At a time when those of you, and frankly those of us, who hope to be part of the solution, are often told to wait our turn. Right? But you believed. You believed that in this moment our state could be bolder. You believed that in this moment our state could go faster. You believed that in this moment our state would not wait its turn. And you believed in the son of an immigrant, a graduate of a 2-year college, a U.S. Army combat veteran, and a nonprofit leader who had never run for office before. And it's because you believed that I stand here humbled and ready to become the 63rd governor of the state of Maryland. It was your support, it was your sense of purpose that carried us across this state, all 24 jurisdictions from the western mountains to the eastern shore, from my birthplace of Montgomery County to my adoptive, home of Baltimore City. Hey, Baltimore. And everywhere in between. I love you back. I love you back. And you know, and the thing is, when I look across this room tonight, what we see right here is we see Maryland, right? We see people from all backgrounds, from all walks of life, from all income levels. We see teachers. We see small business owners. We see nurses. We see union members. All of you who lent your voices and also gave your votes to this campaign, and who said the same thing, who all said with a collective voice that our time is now. And what we're seeing today is that in Maryland, we can come together. You know, I was telling somebody, you know a question I never once asked my soldiers? What's your political party? It never got brought up. That's right. We had one mission. And Maryland, you showed tonight that if we stand divided, we cannot win. But if we stand united, we cannot lose. I am so lucky to have such an amazing partner in this campaign in Aruna Miller, the Lieutenant Governor-elect of the state of Maryland. Aruna, it has been an absolute honor, to go on this journey with you, my friend. An honor. And I tell you what, as she said, we are just getting started. We are just getting started. I am grateful above all to my family and for my family. What's up, y'all? We loud and we love that. That's how we do. But most of all, I am so grateful to my amazing wife, Dawn. And I gotta tell y'all, it feels so good to say this, the next First Lady of the state of Maryland. Dawn, you are my fuel, you are my motivation, you are my greatest protector. My greatest protector. And I gotta tell y'all, I love the way that the state is just totally falling in love with Dawn. I mean, everywhere we go, everywhere we went, people were asking Dawn to attend their events and attend their rallies, and she eventually got so busy that she started telling people, like, listen, I can't make it, but can I send my husband? And to me and James. My first babies. I love you with everything in me. You are my heart and my soul. And I am so proud of you, and I'm completely in love with you. You are brilliant. You are kind. You are unaffected. And I want you to know something. I want you to know the same thing that I want every single child in this state to know. You are never in a room that you don't belong in. Oh no, oh I won't. To my mom and the new first mama of the state of Maryland, Vega Moore. I said, my mother went through trials that were unimaginable and unfair. But she taught her children to be unafraid. And when my mother told me, you can do anything, I believed her. I believed her. And if I can be half the parent and half the person that you are, Ma, I am doing all right. I love you and God bless you. And I am beyond grateful for the best campaign team that the state of Maryland has ever seen. This campaign team is simply the best. Let's be clear. Let's be clear. 16 months ago, we started from scratch. 16 months ago, what did kids say? We started from the bottom. And now we're here. We started from the bottom. This team is amazing. And to our remarkable team and its leadership, to our campaign manager, Ned Miller, to our Chief of Staff, Tisha Edwards, to our entire team, you led the charge, you led the way, and from the bottom of my heart, I thank you, I'm indebted to you, and I'm excited to keep working. Listen, I love this state, y'all. I love this state. This state has been so good to us. But, God bless you. But we know that not everybody in this state has been so lucky. When I was an Army captain, I led soldiers in combat in Afghanistan. We lived by a simple principle: leave no one behind. But for too long, Maryland, we are leaving too many of our family and our neighbors behind. And so during this campaign, many of you have told me about so many of the challenges that you're facing. And I want to let you know that I hear you. That I heard from Donna in Prince George's County, an educator who told me that she was more worried than ever before about the safety of her students and also for her own safety. On the Eastern Shore, I spoke with Michelle, who's been unemployed for over a year because the jobs that she's applying for need constant broadband, which her entire community does not have. In Baltimore, I met Sean, a security guard who was working the midnight shift and blowing his salary on Ubers because there was a lack of reliable public transportation. And in Western Maryland, amen. Oh, it's on its way, y'all. And in Western Maryland, I met Shannon. Shannon's a server who is struggling, even while working multiple jobs. And after our conversation, he told me that I had his vote, but he told me that he did have one ask. Don't forget about us. Shannon, if you're watching, I'm making the same promise to you today that I made back then. I will never forget about you. I will be thinking about you and all the people that we have met during this campaign every single day that I have the honor of serving as your governor. Because it is your dreams, it is your hopes, it is your lives, it is your futures that have fueled this entire campaign. So here is what the Moore-Miller administration is going to do. In our administration, we will work with police and communities to ensure public safety. And we will make sure that we are keeping these illegal guns and these violent offenders off of our streets. In our Maryland, you will feel safe in your own neighborhoods and you will feel safe in your own skin. That we will protect abortion rights and access. And we will empower women to make decisions about their own reproductive health. The decision to get an abortion is difficult. And that decision should be made between a woman and her doctor. That we will build a world-class education system, starting with free pre-K for every single child in need in the state of Maryland. And we will invest in apprenticeship programs and trade programs so that every Marylander, every young person knows that there is a pathway to their long-term economic viability and long-term economic success. We will be the first state in this country to offer a service year option to every single high school graduate. Because if we build a true spirit of service in our state, it is service that will help to save us. Our Maryland will be more competitive and more equitable, and we are not going to choose between those two things. We can and we will do both. And we will make this state a true hub of innovation and economic growth. A place where small businesses can thrive. A place where small businesses can thrive, but also labor unions are strong. And we're not going to choose. A place where people want to come to and build and grow and retire and age in place and age in dignity. Last week, my grandmother passed away. My grandmother passed away at age 95. Her name was Winnell Thomas, but we all affectionately called her Mama Win. And I couldn't think of a more appropriate name tonight than Mama Win. And I know that despite us losing her last week, that tonight, she's got the best seat in the house. Ella nació en Cuba. She was born in Cuba. She immigrated to this country from Jamaica. And she taught public schools for nearly 40 years. She came here to build a life, but she ended up building a legacy. She also helped take care of me and my family after my father died because he didn't get the health care that he needed. My father could have been saved, but he was left behind. So you see, this is personal to me. I have seen how a society with broken policies can leave its people broken too. Leave no one behind is not just a slogan. It is a value statement. And it is a value that will guide me as your next governor. Our administration will fight every single day for every single Marylander and make sure they have a chance to succeed, and this is our time to do it and to make it happen. But before I do close, I do want to take a moment just to speak about history. You know, this state is blessed because we've had a lot of firsts tonight. Aruna Miller.
Listening to Wes Moore, just elected the governor of Maryland. Speaking, we're going to go down to Virginia now in the District 7 race. This is where Congresswoman Abigail Spanberger is speaking. Let's listen now.
After our victory in 2018, I received a small package in the mail. It was from a former elected Republican legislator who wrote to wish my family and me well. He reflected on his children's experiences when he was first elected and what public service had meant to him across his career. In his very kind letter, he wrote that humility and empathy are the keys to meaningful public service. These words resonated with me just as much when I first read them as they do today. It has been humility and empathy that guided me into politics in 2017, and it has been humility and empathy that have sustained me through these years. And I have endeavored to represent and lead with these priorities. In the small package, he included a collection of essays written by Václav Havel, a leader in the cause of democracy who ushered Czechoslovakia from behind the Iron Curtain and led the Czech Republic as its first president. The collection is entitled Politics, Morality, and Civility. And the former legislator had once been gifted this same collection early in his career, and he reflected on the essays throughout his career. And I have, throughout my 4 years, reflected on the profound and important reflections that Havel made. And tonight I want to share with you one of my favorite excerpts. It reads, "Genuine politics, politics worthy of the name, and the only politics I am willing to devote myself to is simply a matter of serving those around us, serving the community, and serving those who come after us. Its deepest roots are moral because it is a responsibility expressed through action." So I stand before you this evening with a deep and abiding love for our country and a profound sense of responsibility. And one I have sought to honor through action. Our nation is an extraordinary nation because it was built on an idea, a dream, a promise. And our nation has faced challenges, shortcomings, and hardships, but the quality of the American people and the strength of our abiding character and institutions have carried us through. And tonight, it is my belief in our great republic, the nation formed on the idea of liberty and freedom, not bound by historical boundaries or the stories of kings and queens, but the idea of a nation founded on a common belief in principles. A great nation, Benjamin Franklin celebrated as a republic if you can keep it. And we must all work hard to keep it through our actions, through our votes, through our volunteerism, and through our participation as citizens. Tonight, we must recommit ourselves to the cause of our country, to the communities we live in, and to our neighbors, whether they align with us politically or not, and to our great country. Our children and our grandchildren deserve that. I want to begin by thanking my opponent, Supervisor Yesli Vega, her family for their sacrifices, her supporters for their engagement in our democracy, and their commitment to their candidate. And I want to thank my campaign team for their extraordinary work. They have done everything we knew to do. They have done everything we knew to do to ensure that the voters knew the value of their voice, the importance of this election, the work we have and wanted to continue doing on behalf of our Commonwealth. I want to thank our Congressional team for their service to the people of Virginia's 7th District. Thank you for making people feel heard, sometimes for the first time in their lives, by their elected representative. And thank you for delivering to those who need support and help. And thank you for working every day to demonstrate empathy and humility in all that you do. Thank you to my family. Thank you to my father, who taught me the abiding belief in service and country and modeled hard work throughout his career and knocked hundreds of...
Congresswoman Abigail Spanberger speaking on the 7th Congressional District race, which, by the way, has not been called at this point, but is still very tight. We're going to take a brief timeout.
That's right. She was thanking her supporters, thanking her challenger as well. We'll be right back after a quick break. Stay with us.
All right, this is a WSA 9 Election Night update. We are all over covering tonight's big races in Virginia, Maryland, and D.C. Good evening. Glad you could stay with us on WSA 9. I'm Adam Longo.
And I'm Delia Gonzalez. Let's go to the Commonwealth now. CNN has projected Democratic incumbent Jennifer Wexton as the winner in the race for District 10. She defeated Republican and retired Navy Captain Hung Kao. We're going to head now to Matthew Torres, who was at the campaign. Matthew, how are things going there tonight?
Well, Delia, as Representative Abigail Spanberger was giving what sounded like a victory speech, her opponent Yesli Vega just took the stage just within the last few minutes at the very same time during the speech, providing an update to her supporters, pretty much telling them not to give up just yet, even though Abigail Spanberger is in the lead. She is telling folks that they are wanting every vote to be counted for before she comes out here again. She says she's just going back to the war room right now to pay attention to all of those numbers right now, but she is not conceding whatsoever, despite Spanberger again giving what sounded like a victory speech. She is really emboldening the folks here to not give up whatsoever, and could be setting the stage potentially for a recount of these votes. But of course, we'll have to wait and see. Back to you.
All right, Matthew, thank you. We want to also check in now on one of the big races that we've been following tonight, and that is the gubernatorial race in Maryland, where the Associated Press has now called this race for Democrat Wes Moore over the Republican challenger state delegate Dan Cox.
That's right. Wes Moore was giving his victory speech. He's there dancing on stage with his family. Something that he said that stood out to me, that he pledged the state would be more competitive and more equitable moving forward. Of course, he is making history tonight as the first black governor of the state of Maryland.
In addition, down the ticket, the race for comptroller, as well as the race for attorney general, looks like those seats will be in Democratic hands as well. Brooke Learman and Anthony Brown running for comptroller and attorney general as well. We're also getting some new information on some other races that we're following.
That's right. Maryland voters approved a constitutional amendment legalizing recreational marijuana. Lots of folks were looking at that one. That means it will be legal for people over 21 in Maryland to possess up to 1.5 ounces of marijuana beginning July 2023.
All right, so there's another race that hasn't been called yet, another one of the close races that we've been following here in the area, and that is the Congressional District 6 race in Maryland. This is a rematch between incumbent Congressman David Trone and Neil Parrott. That one has not been called yet. It does appear neck and neck. We are still waiting for more results to come in on that race, and we will be able to share those with you as we move forward, of course.
That's right. Stay with us. We'll have all these numbers as they continue to come in. We will have another update in 30 minutes, and we'll have up-to-the-minute results tonight on WSA 9 News at 11.
That's right. So we will have perpetual coverage streaming on WSA 9 Plus, and you can always get the very latest information on the WSA 9 app. We also have those election results right on our website at WSA9.com. So between now and then, you can just pick up the phone, you can look at those results at your leisure and see how things are going. We'll be back with you shortly here on WSA 9.
Welcome back, everyone. So one of our goals tonight isn't just to tell you what's happening in this election, but to give you some context, the why behind what's happening. So to do that, we are bringing in some of the brightest minds in the area. So joining us, we have Ravi Perry. He's a professor of political science at Howard University. David Carroll, an associate professor at the Department of Government and Politics at the University of Maryland, College Park. Could your title be any longer, sir? And then we have Cheryl Laird, who's also an associate professor of government and politics at College Park. So, folks, let's. A lot happened in the last couple of minutes. Wes Moore, we're hearing from Spanberger as well. What are your initial thoughts and breakdown of how the night went, Cheryl?
I mean, I think it's gone pretty well for the Democrats, definitely more than what they've anticipated, but Wes Moore was kind of a guarantee. But I think it's a really historic moment to see in Maryland, to see an African-American rise to the office of the gubernatorial space, one where there's been a long history and legacy with respect to race, with respect to the African-American community within this state. And so for him to be in that position, it's not only indicative of where the state of Maryland is going, but also even representative of the nation. I think he's a young upstart within the party and has a lot of potential in the future.
You said he was giving you Obama vibes.
He was giving me Obama vibes. I mean, I was watching some of the body language. I was like, I've seen that before.
All right, we only have 90 seconds left. Ravi, I want to go to you because we talked about competitive yet equitable. That's what Wes Moore said. Can he pull that off?
Well, he wants to build a coalition, the same coalition he has built away from politics and his nonprofit leadership experience. I think that he's going to be up for a big battle in trying to accomplish that in the state of Maryland. As much as it is important for the governor to bring people together, it's very difficult in this polarizing political environment where people have to want to become a part of another group in order to build that social change together. And right now, Republicans and Democrats aren't really doing that. And so I think he may want to do that. And that may be an important vision and tone that he sets. But whether or not he'll be able to pragmatically get it done is a challenge. But he will have the control of both chambers of the state legislature. So Democrats are on a roll in Maryland.
David, let's bring you into the conversation and talk about Virginia for a moment. And you said looking nationally, how do you think that plays into what's happening in Virginia?
Yeah, well, the Spanberger race, the 7th district, is the kind of district Democrats have to hold if they want to have any chance of holding on Capitol Hill. It's not that if Spanberger wins, they will necessarily keep the majority, but if candidates like her in districts like that couldn't win, it would be completely over. And so it looks like it is not a bad night for Democrats considering the midterm context. The midterm context is almost always unfavorable to the president's party.
Thank you so much. We have to go there. I appreciate your time. Join us tonight at 11. We'll have much more coverage then.